man's gunning for me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Welcome to Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher. I'm wearing my own merch. Look, my box of merch finally came. It was a big box of stuff. You can't see it, but all this lint from my jacket got on it, and I'm pissed. But you can't see it on camera. It looks good. The magic of TV. All right. This will be an interesting episode. This was our last episode from this studio. They were letting me use it for a while for free, and I knew that day wouldn't last forever. But good thing, we'll just go and move it to the GWF studio. So thanks over here for, after you kicked me off the network, you did let me use the studio for free guest digital. So shout out. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. We're going to be moving over to the GWF studio. So hopefully everything will be fine there. But if the show looks a little different next week, that is why. To help support the show, obviously, please head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry. If you, I was going to thank everyone later, but all hail to our amazing dictator, Christopher Fungi. Thank you so much for supporting this show the way that you do. Shout out to my capitalist pigs and my cuties. Everything is, that's good. Okay, so that's just some housekeeping stuff. Today, I think millennials everywhere, especially other people too, but, millennials, we really grew up with this show. Were shattered over the announcement of the passing of James Van Der Beek, aka Dawson Leary. I was just like, this show, you'll hear about it another time in another piece of work, but this show, I watched the entire thing 2 times, once in real time when I was a teenager, and then pretty recently, because it was one of my comfort shows, when there was some, I don't know if I was right as my dad was dying or right after he died, because I had a couple comfort shows, some while he was dying, some right after. But TV did play like a pivotal role in my healing process, and specifically nostalgic type TV. I mean, I'm not myself a psychologist, but I would think that I would naturally gravitated towards the television that I watched in my house growing up when my dad was alive, which would have been like Dawson's Creek and Gilmore Girls. So those were the shows that I rewatched. And so I had already had a very, deep relationship with the show. And in recent years, even more so, I would say. I think it resonated with me more the second time around that I watched it. Because even though they were teenagers, they were going through, basically like adult situations, like the kind of drama that they were going through on Dawson's Creek. I was not going through at Union High School. That kind of stuff didn't start happening until I was in college. I don't know, maybe you guys went to more interesting high schools than me, but my high school, I mean, I don't even think most people there could read, especially based on the Facebook posts that I see them leaving. That's a whole other topic that I do want to talk about at one point. But I have, especially during this second term of the Trump administration, I have really been floored by the Facebook and Instagram posts of some of the people that I went to high school with. I guess I didn't realize how many fucking idiots I went to high school with. It didn't feel like they were fucking idiots growing up, but now it makes so much more sense why I felt completely out of place. These are people who lack unoriginal. They just lack the ability to think outside the box, I think, more than anything. And they have so much hate in their hearts. And I didn't know that I was going to school with people who had that much hate in their hearts, but apparently I was. And it's really alarming. And I'm glad I didn't know that then. Because I would have felt like I didn't hate them then. I just kind of felt like this deep sense of like I don't belong. But it wasn't that kind of, feeling that you get when you feel like there's something wrong with you. It was always quite clear there was something wrong with them, not me, and that I didn't belong there. Um, so, maybe I should make a TV show about that. You know, when you feel like you don't belong, but you know it's everyone else, not you? I don't know. I remember walking around like in my high school being like, I cannot wait to fucking move to New York City. And I said that to like my health teacher, who obviously you're teaching health at a public school. You're probably not a genius, but even he like got it because I guess he was at least an adult and he was like, no, I get it. You need to get out of here. Like, this isn't the place for you. You need to go spread those wings. So anyway, shout out to that teacher. I don't even remember your name. You probably work for honestly the Department of Homeland Security, but we had we had some kind of a connection, not like a romance. Like we just I just got each other. I always liked my teachers better than my peers anyway, except for like my close friends like Paula and stuff. Anyway, so I was absolutely devastated when I heard of the news of James Van Der Beek's passing, and I don't know. I just feel for his family so much. He has so many kids, and I feel like he had so much more life left to live. And I used to love watching his Instagram, like little talks. Honestly, they were like his Instagram was so deep. It was like freaking mini TED Talks on there. It's been an interesting week for all these so-called spiritual leaders like Deepak Chopra, who just turned out to be a fucking grade A pedophile, which, it didn't take a genius to read between the lines there. Any of those health wellness gurus, I don't trust any of them. I don't trust any of those people, any of these like, professors online or this, fake shit. Like, if you are really an academic, you are most likely disgusted with the internet and social media. But, I was kind of like TikTok. It's only a matter of times before we pull up something on Mel Robbins and those newfangled people. It weirds me out because I know so many people who like follow GWF and follow Without a Country, follow those types of wellness gurus. And I can see where the intersect is, but it does make my skin crawl because if you like, even like Jay Shetty or like Huberman, like any of those people, I gotta be honest, and I've always felt this way, and I've talked about it on the show before, I don't trust any of those people. I don't trust any of those people. And I know you guys are like, well, I love them. I don't trust them. It's the same as why I don't trust Oprah. I don't trust any of those people. These wellness people who make themselves like kind of new age spiritual figures, there's something deeply wrong with all of them. I just know there is. And it astounds me how many smart, interesting people who I love follow those people, and I think really like believe the things that they say. So please just take that shit with a grain of salt. But James Van Der Beek, if you want someone who I actually think had really come to like an understanding about what life really is and the meaning and like it was connected to the earth and like all these things. I got to tell you, watch those James Van Der Beek Instagram stories. He was presenting some really interesting information, especially after his mother passed away. That's the one thing I'm happy for him, that he can be with his own mother again. But it is so sad. And I had just been talking to a friend who's also a big Dawson's Creek fan not that long ago, and she sent me a post and she was like, how do you like, I feel like he's like, looks like he's not doing well. How is he doing? And I actually thought he looked like he was doing a little bit better than I had seen in previous pictures. But as I said, when I went to the pilot reading last year, he was obviously too sick to attend, and a huge fuck you to all the people who complained in his Instagram comments that he wasn't attending. I'm a single mom driving 3 hours to the show. I can't believe you're not being there. Bitch, he's dying of cancer. I knew it then. I knew it now. Not that he was dying, but that, like, obviously if he's not showing up to his own cancer benefit, he's extremely ill. So I hope you watch your mouth before you talk in the future and, realize that other people exist in the world besides you. I'm combining many people into one character, but that just made me so angry. And I guess now my, just whatever Kimberly Van Der Beek wants to do with her life and however she wants to live it, that's James's wife, but a full woman in her own, right. I just hope it doesn't turn into another thing where we, rate her on how she's grieving and then as a society come down on her if she doesn't not date and doesn't spend the rest of her life honoring James Van Der Beek in the way that we think she would, because that's one of the most sexist parts of society. When a woman loses her husband, we as a society think that we can decide how long is appropriate for her to go without any romantic love in her life, and how frequently and with what level of enthusiasm should be continuing to make the continuance of her existence about celebrating her husband and her husband's work, as if she doesn't have this huge journey ahead of her in raising, what do they have, like 9 kids? I think, I'm not even being dramatic, I think it's like not 9 kids, raising all those children, with, I'm sure, the support of family and friends, but still raising those children alone. And we know that they are financially shattered. It was that's six children. 6 children, Mike's showing me from the booth. They have 6 children, and we know that the cancer did financially shatter them, which is yet this other conversation about the fucked up, how fucked up healthcare is in America. This is someone, usually if you have a TV show as big as Dawson's Creek, one TV series of that level should really set you up for life. You shouldn't have to do it. Residuals from a TV show like that, especially where you're the star, are like huge. And the fact that he had to sell memorabilia from the show, James Van Der Beek, to pay for his cancer treatment. And now I just saw someone else put up a GoFundMe to support the family, is really another piece of this story that is an absolutely disgusting commentary on American society and the American healthcare system. Mike, did you want to comment on that? I saw you.
No, I just I remember Jason Alexander explaining, that when Seinfeld was like the #1 show in the world, making untold amount of money on the live run, before they'd even gotten a syndication, he explained that the showrunners and creators would never part with money on residuals.
I guess it depends what everyone's individual contract was, but I can't imagine James Van Der Beek's, especially, after the first season, wasn't pretty massive.
Yeah, but it's I'm just saying, especially at that time in the 90s, because Dawson's was around around that time of Seinfeld, and it's it was all upfront money back then.
It was a little late. I think it was a little later than Seinfeld. It was. I was in high school, so I graduated high school in 2003.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it came out when I was in high school. So yeah, I guess a little bit after. But I'm saying the business model at the time was not you don't make the stars producers and give them points on the back end. You give them a lot of money up front. And when you're, at whatever age he was at, a lot of money back then for the CW network. Let's say it's $250,000 an episode. It's 30 years later.
Yeah, it's possible. I pulled up a story from 2012 that said James Van Der Beek says Dawson's Creek paid almost nothing. I guess I was thinking more about shows from Friends, because those Friends, those people are fine. They were making $1 billion an episode at the end.
Well, yeah, that was the precedent that Seinfeld set, was hey, I know how much this money's going to make in syndication. Mm-hmm. You need to give us this money up front. And then people like Paul Reiser could be well, they're getting $1 million, I want $1 million. And it kind of messed up the TV industry for a little bit. So I think especially with Dawson, it was let's get 6 no names in there, Jersey Shore style, and sign them to contracts that'll,
Right.
The Power Rangers too. Power Rangers made no money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Any stuff for teens is
I would believe that a little bit more, just because the Power Rangers were more about the characters, were more about the suits that they were in. Whereas Dawson's Creek, it's we're talking about Katie Holmes, Josh Jackson, Michelle Williams, James Van Der Beek. Those were all, faces and names that we know that appeared everywhere. But that's a good point. So anyway, just a really disgusting. So that's then a disgusting conversation to have about exploitation in the entertainment business, one of my favorite topics, and the American healthcare system. Just really rough stuff all around. So, I just, and I wanted to share just a quick little story. I was an extra many years ago on Dawson's Creek when my mom tricked me and said that we were going on vacation in North Carolina, and then actually I had to work. But again, another story for a different day. And as I was on set, it was like a really hot day, and James Van Der Beek bought ice pops for like I believe it was like Italian ice or ice pops for everyone on set, and it was just like a really sweet gesture because it was a hot day, and I thought that was really kind, especially now knowing that he wasn't making any money. So to buy, an ice pop is a cheap thing, but to buy it for everyone on the set, that really adds up because there was a lot of us. It was the college years, so we were doing college scenes. I think it was the college. No, were they in college yet? I don't know. Were they? I'm trying to think what they were doing. I feel like we were on a campus in college. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he bought ice pops for everyone. And one time he did respond to my Instagram comment, and I was like, "You're the best."
When you did the rewatch, could you see yourself?
Yeah, well, I know exactly where I am. I was a featured extra, so I was in a classroom scene with Katie Holmes.
Ooh.
And my face was like not even in it because I was. This is my problem because I was trying to be greedy with screen time, and I misjudged where the camera was, and so I thought I was leaning into the shot, so I was like leaning over, and I was actually pushing myself out of the shot more rather than into it. But you can see my arm.
You just hammed it up too much.
I know. I was like, God damn! I was so excited because the direct or I'm guessing it was the AD came in and like hand selected me to be in this classroom scene as a featured extra, and I was like, yes! And so I got to be in a classroom scene with James Van Der Beek and Katie Holmes, and they were discussing the Merchant of Venice was what they were talking about in the episode. It was like an English classroom.
That sounds like high school.
And I walked in. Yeah, that does sound like high school. I think it was. I don't know. You know what? I'm sorry. I think we were shooting on a college campus that was acting as a high school.
That makes sense.
I think that's what it was. And it was fun because I was like the last person. I guess someone got kicked out of the seat who wasn't up to the challenge. And then they went in and there was only one seat left and they hand selected me. So the scene was set. And so I had to walk in by myself. So everyone stopped and looked at me, including James Van Der Beek and Katie Holmes. And I was like, this is awesome. And
Whoa.
I'm a star. That was my first moment. But yeah, so I'm just so bummed about that. Just so sad on so many levels. He was 48 and I don't know. I think this is also, I think we have this thought that when celebrities get cancer or when celebrities go through tough things that they are more invincible than regular people. And sure, they do have access to sometimes healthcare providers or treatments that we might not have access to, whether it be because of money or because of people that they know. But this is just a story of how cancer takes us all, man. Ugh, I was really that threw me off the whole day as soon as I found that out. So, man, this I guess you deserve more, but this episode of Without a Country's for you, James Van Der Beek. All right, on that same or on a different note, Pageant to the People is next weekend. It's Saturday, February 21st in Tucson, Arizona.
You're gonna be boots on the ground in Pima County?
Yeah, I will be.
Where the Guthrie kidnapping is taking place?
Yeah, the Guthrie kidnapping. It's a hot time to be in Tucson, Arizona. Let me tell you, I had a long meeting about it with the director of the Pima County Democratic Party earlier today, and I'm excited. Ticket sales have really picked up the past week or so. So if you are thinking of getting those tickets, get them now. If the reason that you haven't purchased a ticket yet is because you're not financially able to support at the ticket prices now, we're doing a flash sale for 24 hours only this coming Friday. You can use code VOTEBLUE2026 altogether, just write VOTEBLUE2026, and you'll get $20 off any ticket level that you want to buy. So keep that in mind. But if you've already purchased a ticket, please don't be like, oh crap, I wasted $20, because again, it's all a donation. So your money is all going to a great cause. And if you are fiscally able, we really appreciate you buying it at the non-sale price. But of course, we want it to be accessible for everyone, and everyone should have a right to talk to their elected officials and enjoy events like this and be able to support the Democratic Party, which again, they're going to need that money to fight hardcore in the midterms. And the link is in the Linktree link in my bio at Philanthropy Gal, or you can just literally Google, Pageant to the People, Corinne Fisher, and it comes up. It's at Club Congress in Tucson, Arizona. Doors open at 6 p.m. on Saturday. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. Last week, I had mentioned that we were going to hear something from Kamala Harris with the headquarters from the Kamala Harris HQ, and so. And yes, I thought it might be that she was announcing that she was running for office, but then I was like, I think it's too early, and also she hasn't really done anything to change the public's perception of her, since she lost to Donald Trump. And so she kind of did what I recommended. I don't know if this is going to do the trick. I honestly don't think it will do the trick, but I knew that if she was thinking about running for president again, she would have to make a contribution to progressives that could really be felt in more leftist spaces than she has previously, found herself in, because she's pretty, she's a little bit of she's pretty moderate, I would say. And yeah, I do like her, but some of her views are too moderate for me. But she did she has launched something. She rebooted Kamala HQ as headquarters, and it's going to be a progressive media hub aimed at Gen Z voters. So we'll keep an eye on it. She's teamed up to do it with the liberal advocacy group People for the American Way, founded by legendary television producer Norman Lear. So again, they're kind of getting into the space that we knew that the left needed to get into, to catch up with the right, who has things like Turning Point, and they just have a lot more ways for people to kind of get on their team via online sources. And this Variety article describes the new headquarters as an effort to mobilize pro-justice, pro-fairness, pro-democracy young people against far-right extremism. So they can say whatever they want. Obviously, this is Kamala's approach to trying and getting young leftists on her side to see if it's possible for her to run for president again. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. I don't think she just all of a sudden was like, I want to start a hub for young, she's obviously setting the stage to run for something or do something that she will monetize. I would love to believe that she's just doing this because she thinks it's what the party needs and out of the goodness of her heart, but I highly, highly doubt that. And I just wanted to come back because last week I said, if there's even any chance of her having anything successful in running for president again, she has to do something that leaves a huge imprint and makes a huge change in the party, moving it more left, moving it more progressive, making it stop eating itself. And, this could be an example of that. Again, I don't think it's going to do the trick, but at least she is making the move that I think she needs to if there's any chance of her running for president again, which again, I thought was surprising, but then so many outlets had mentioned it in previous weeks that it seems like they have to be getting that from somewhere. I don't think it's out of thin air, Let's move on to the enemy of the state for this week. This week's enemy of the state, as it is many weeks, is misinformation. And so I just saw a lot of misinformation this week, so much so that I had to make a little bit of a video about it. I saw
enemy of the state.
I saw tons of kind of I don't even know. I just saw tons of rumors and unsubstantiated facts about the Epstein files, which is annoying because the Epstein files are horrific enough as it is. We don't need to be adding things to it to make them more horrific. There's a lot of hearsay, a lot of things that can't be backed up. And one of them that I saw circulate, and then I also saw a lot of information pertaining to still the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I saw a lot of information and a lot of different videos about creators saying that Charlie Kirk had spoken with a divorce attorney a few weeks before he was assassinated, and then a bunch of chatter that Charlie Kirk had written Erica Kirk out of his will, and apparently this was stemming from some type of maybe affair that it was rumored that Erica Kirk had with J.D. Vance. obviously we can't say for sure, only those two know, like for sure, but there is those are not substantiated claims in any way. I looked high and low all over the internet. There is nothing that says he met with a divorce lawyer, nothing that says and it's also debunked in multiple sources. And like that's something that, they would have loved to run with, I'm sure, if it was true. But that's just something that I saw so many creators saying in 2-camera videos as if it were a fact. And not only is it definitely not verified, it seems like it's actually blatantly untrue. And then a second thing that I heard a lot about, that I had a lot of people tell me in real life about, was this like a video of a girl on Epstein Island being tortured by having a large magnifying glass held up over her the way you would do when you were a little kid to like bugs, or I mean, I didn't do that, but like you would hold a magnifying glass, and get it directly in the sun to, kill ants when you were little. They said that there was a video of that people had seen, and it was of a girl on Epstein Island getting burned by the sun as a form of torture while she was naked. So this is also, and again, I saw so many creators doing this. I saw one creator make a video where she references the actual numbered Epstein file where this comes from. So I don't know what the hell is going on. The source of the Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk drama seemed to be taken from some kind of a satiric a la The Onion news source that then was picked up, I guess, not knowing that the original source was a satire source that was then picked up as real news and then just shared a lot online. So I kind of got to the bottom of where that was from. This Epstein Island video clip seems to be from some kind of BDSM porn that has been around for quite some time. I did find one reputable news source that wrote an article about it from 5 days ago. It was MSN.com. The title is literally, "Is Epstein Island Naked Girl Torture Video Real? Viral Magnifying Glass Sunburn Clip Debunked." A couple other places had written like little debunked passages about it. It says, again, this stuff really gains traction on places like Reddit. And I know Reddit can be super interesting, and similar to social media, you can find the start of an interesting story that you might want to follow on these places, but you have to follow this up with some kind of other reputable news source. Like, I understand why people are going to these alternative news sources, because we've lost faith in the media, but that doesn't mean that we would just want to go to a guy in his house as our news source, right? It's like there has to be some place in the middle. We're not going to go from like New York Times to guy in his basement. Okay, that's too drastic of a change. So this article says Epstein Library page on the U.S. Department of Justice website displayed on a laptop screen, and the document available at Epstein Library displayed on a phone screen are seen in this illustration photo taken in Crashout, Poland. Okay, what is this? I'm reading something. I don't even know why they're describing this. Okay, they're describing this picture. A disturbing video has resurfaced on social media days after the release of the latest tranche of the Epstein files. Trigger warning, this article contains references to torture and sex abuse. Reader's discretion is advised. Many have alleged that the clip captures the convicted sex offender torturing a naked girl on his island. The grainy video features a man bearing a resemblance to Jeffrey Epstein using a magnifying glass to burn a female who has been blurred. An ex-user, Greenway SH57854, shared the minute-long clip and tweeted, "My heart aches, my heart breaks for this poor child on Epstein Island being tortured with a magnifying glass focused on the sun. What kind of crime is this?" The United States Department of Justice did not release the alleged Epstein Island clip. In the recently classified collection of documents, images, and videos detailing the disgraced financiers criminal activities. According to the International Business Times, the viral torture video has been making the rounds on the internet for years. The outlet debunked the clip in 2024, stating that it did not capture Jeffrey Epstein torturing one of his alleged victims on his island. The IB Times reported that the video was taken from an adult film, Drea Morgan Stakeout Under Glass, starring performers Drea Stakeout and Lou Rubens. The edited clip, presented as an Epstein Island torture video, has emerged on different platforms multiple times. The same user.
And frankly, it's an affront to Mr. Morgan's reputation.
What?
It's an affront to that male porn star's reputation.
Oh,
It
that's
mixed
a
him up
man?
with I would assume.
I thought Drea was the woman and Lou Rubens is.
Yeah, Lou
is
Rubens.
Oh yeah, Lou Rubens is the guy. Yeah. I was like, Drea's a girl. Okay.
Yeah, that's disturbing accusation about Mr. Rubens, and I will not stand for it.
Why? Because his dick is way bigger than Epstein's.
Yeah, I mean, A. Also, B. It's just like, I don't know, man. You're making weird fetish stuff in the 80s. Now you're being mistaken for a literal like guy who everyone agrees is a monster.
Right. Yeah. Greenway SH57854's tweet sparked concern among the netizens. That user tweeted, "Why no serious global outage?" I guess they mean outrage. Why people in the U.S. are not on the streets. Another user questioned, is she okay? Did she die from this or did she survive? Many users asked Grok, which is like the AI on X if you're not on X, to verify the claim's authenticity. At the same time, many called out the X account for posting fake news. Netizens criticized the X account for posting a debunked Epstein Island torture video. Many controversial claims have surfaced after the DOJ unsealed millions of classified documents, photos, and videos linked. And so let's see. However, many netizens were quick to call out the same X user, Greenway. This isn't real. Please, there are a lot of files going around, but this one isn't real. And stuff like this. This was completely debunked. But again, I saw so many people in my real life told me about this. I saw multiple creator videos with thousands and thousands of comments and retweet. And like, also I checked the comments to make sure it wasn't a series of people saying this is fake or this is debunked. It was people, and again, like prominent people who you follow, people with blue check marks, people with millions of followers themselves were commenting on this, being like, why is there no global outrage? Again, like, please, you guys, I understand we have a lot coming at us at once and we have our own lives. But like, if you do not have the time to consume news responsibly, I honestly feel like it's maybe better if you don't consume it at all, right? If you choose to consume news via the social media or Reddit or places where you really have to fact check, if that's where you choose to do it, you have to leave time to do your due diligence. Because again, I got hit with so many creator videos of people who it's like their thing is to tell you the news that people aren't going to tell you, like that. There are some creators who are a lot more reliable, like someone like an Aaron Parnas is a lot more of a reliable independent journalist. But this even goes back to the Minnesota and the what was that guy's name? Luke, or I forgot his fucking name, but like that YouTube guy, Nick Shirley, who got everyone off track. Again, like these things are gonna get a lot of, but we can't be trusting people who are just reporting news, are not journalists, seemingly don't have any ins to get this news. Like if it was this easy to get a hot story, we would all be getting hot stories. But you have to keep in mind, just because these aren't, it's not the mainstream media and they're not owned by billionaires, these are still people who know that saying a specific fiery headline is going to get them a lot of clicks and they are able to monetize it. So even though they themselves are not billionaires, they are still kind of following the format of billionaires, and therefore they're untrustworthy. Like, yes, maybe they don't have like dark pedophilic secrets to hide yet, but they are still monetizing outrage, and they are monetizing left versus right, and they are monetizing the most outrageous stories. And in a world where the truth is already so outrageous, just think the lies that people need to tell to go viral, and especially to go uniquely viral, right? So just like really, really keep that in mind, because I was really, I'm bothered by this every week, but I was really bothered by it that week. And it really didn't take me very long at all to kind of trace this and see where it came from and see that it was just not true. So alarming. What is the call-in number if people want to call in, Mike?
It is 201-308-3510.
And again, please, like if you're calling in, make sure it's something that we're talking about at the time. That's all I ask, because we have so much to go over. So this was just in right before we hit the air today. This is from 19thnews.org. The House passes elections overhaul bill that could make it harder for married women to vote. We had talked about this a little bit. The Senate did, and the House did end up passing this. The Save America Act faces an uphill battle in the Senate, where a handful of Republicans have expressed concerns about implementing the provisions. And this is from, let's see, what the hell is today's date? Is it? Yeah, today is the 11th. Okay, I just want to make sure this is from today. The House today passed the Save America Act, which would implement strict limitations on voter registration and casting a ballot, including new rules that could make it more difficult for married women or LGBTQ plus women to register if they've changed their names. And again, this is all about voter suppression. Obviously figuring out what kind of people don't usually vote for Republicans and finding ways to stop them from voting pre-midterms. Really on the edge of my seat here to see what else they're going to come up with, what other shenanigans. The vote passed on partisan lines, with only Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar voting for the legislation, and will face an uphill battle in the Senate. Stricter voter ID requirements are part of a more aggressive GOP strategy to question the validity of elections. The vote comes after the White House reopened investigations on an election office in Fulton County, Georgia, one of the central sites in President Donald Trump's unfounded concerns of election fraud in 2020. Trump also recently said that he wanted to nationalize voting, and while he has been vague on what that means, it could include a federal override on states' abilities to run their own elections, particularly in places where he lost to Joe Biden. And again, this also goes directly against what, or part of what he ran on, which is giving states individual rights or more individual rights. While voter ID requirements are popular among Americans across the political spectrum, critics say the provisions in the Save America Act would be overly burdensome on already eligible voters and dissuade new registration, particularly in rural areas. Voting rights groups have said that the bill would pose a barrier for millions of American women and others who have changed their legal names because of marriage, assimilation, or to better align with their gender identity. An estimated 69 million American women and 4 million men do not have a birth certificate that matches their current legal name. The Save America Act requires voters to provide documents proving their citizenship at the time of registration. Many otherwise eligible citizens do not have access to the required documents, such as an unexpired passport. Birth certificates are also one of the few options to prove a registrant's identity, but they often do not reflect a married person's or LGBTQ plus individual's current legal name once they have changed it. While there are ways to further corroborate one's identity, some experts warn the bureaucratic burden may turn people off registering altogether due to complications, preventing citizens from being able to cast a ballot. There's already so many things that stop people from voting, and so any hurdle is going to create more and more of a problem. In other countries, I was reading this week that they have elections on Sundays. I mean, I know that we have off on election day, but like, what does off really mean in America? You have to be, working at a very corporate traditional job or like a bank or something like that to get off on these national holidays. Most people, if you're working at a cafe or something, you don't have off on election day. If you're working for yourself, you don't have off on election day, so there's just a lot of hoops you got to jump through to vote, and it really shouldn't be that way. A real solution would eliminate the provision that requires women to go around and gather all these documents only to then affirm their own identity. said New Mexico Representative Teresa Legar Fernandez, who chairs the Democratic Women's Caucus, during a press conference. She added that as a Latina, she and others often have multiple documents with different legal names, which would add to confusion when registering. This bill will make it harder, more expensive for you to register and vote. Proponents of the bill have scoffed at the idea that the act would meaningfully affect married people who have changed their names. GOP Representative Tim Burchett, a vocal advocate of the bill from Tennessee, said the concept of married women not being able to vote under the act was, quote, ridiculous. Quote, it's an easy change. There's no problem with that at all, Burchett told the 19th. That's just like saying it's Jim Crow. That's an antiquated argument that nobody buys. No, I think that was a huge tell, Tim Burchett. It probably is very similar to Jim Crow, and that's why you mentioned it, because you got Jim Crow on the mind, and you said, how can we do Jim Crow but for women? That sounds like a good idea. Republicans introduced its predecessor, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility America Act, the SAVE Act, last year to purportedly block non-citizens from voting, something that is already illegal. That House-passed version still hasn't been taken up in the Senate. Between the new Save America Act and its amendments, passed in the House Rules Committee on Tuesday, the new version would have individuals present an eligible photo ID before voting, in addition to the former version's requirement of proof of citizenship while registering. Mail-in ballots would also require voters to include a scanned copy of their identification, even in states that automatically send ballots to eligible individuals. The bill also mandates states to remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls, already an extremely rare occurrence, and I think something that we're definitely going to see happening come midterms is I think people are going to be showing up to vote and their names aren't going to be found. I think that's definitely going to happen. After submitting those logs to the Department of Homeland Security for review. Critics say on the state level, such voter roll reviews have in the past erroneously purged legal citizen voters. The voter ID provisions would be effective immediately, potentially affecting those who have already cast mail-in ballots for their primary elections, as well as the millions of people who would want to register to vote for the upcoming midterms. There are also logistical delays seen with voter overhauls over the last decade in states such as Texas or Kansas, when election officials and administrators faced confusing or conflicting information following the changes. There's absolutely no runway for this bill, said Greta Bedekovics, the director of democracy policy at the left-leaning Center for American Progress. Overnight, you would be changing the way that every single American registers to vote and how millions of people actually vote at the ballot box, and elected officials would have to be doing all this education in real time. And again, it's like, what's the best way to, screw something up without it being too obvious? It's obviously to create chaos. Even if, and I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about the Epstein files and all this misinformation surrounding it, I was watching, and I couldn't find the clip, but it was someone who works in law, and she was explaining how when you're, part of a trial where some of the evidence, or you have to reveal a lot of really disturbing evidence to the jury, it's not all done at the same time. It's done in pieces so that the pieces can really each hold their individual impact, and so that the human beings on the jury can really digest the gravity of what they're seeing. And with the Epstein files, and her assessment was that they were doing this purposely, was that so much awfulness was released at once. And her theory was that this was a tactic because when the human brain takes in so much horror at once, it actually is less impactful, not more impactful, right? Because I'm guessing like your survival mechanisms start to come into play. And, then instead of going, oh my God, this is absolutely so horrific, I need to sit down, I need to take time with this, I need to really look through this, you kind of just go, oh my God, this is actually so horrific, I can't even bear to process this. And then we all go online and have an argument about whether it was appropriate for Bad Bunny to sing in Spanish at the Super Bowl or not. And like, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, I think that, yes, there was a ton of racists who had a problem with Bad Bunny performing, but like it also, that huge argument just took time away from things that were really pressing. Like Bad Bunny is a huge celebrity and he's making millions of dollars and he was already booked on the Super Bowl and no one was taking that away from him. So really anyone could say whatever the fuck they want to say. He was the Super Bowl halftime show. We knew more people were going to watch that. Any non-nonsensical person knows that lots of people in America speak Spanish and we all came from other places unless you're an indigenous person. And like, this is like stuff you learn in grade school. Like we all know this, right? And so again, not that it was unimportant and not to take anything away from the gravity of that performance and how special it was for Latin people, of course. But I just think it was like, that's something that you feel that we want to, that's like becomes something that we talk about a little bit more because it feels like we have, more control over it than these really, really millions of horrific pages of the Epstein files, right? Because people go, okay, when we know all this information now, like, what are we going to do about it? Well, we as individuals, I don't know what we're going to do about it. That's kind of the problem. That's like the issue here is what are we going to do about it? I think the answer is we all stop paying our taxes, but we're not going to be able to get enough people on board because there's just going to be enough rule followers that won't go along with that plan, basically, and if everyone doesn't do it, then just the people who don't pay their taxes just get in legal trouble, and it kind of doesn't work out for anyone. So key Republican sponsors had gotten antsy about the delay in passing this voter legislation, going so far as to try to connect the measure to the wider spending package required for the government to run. That spending package already had been sidelined by debates over reforming and further funding for the Department of Homeland Security after federal officers killed 2 people during its ongoing anti-immigrant campaign in Minneapolis. To the chagrin of the bill's staunchest advocates, House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune punted on the issue to separate it from DHS funding last week, with Johnson saying, "I don't think we need to be playing games with government funding." Trying to find a guaranteed vehicle to force a Senate vote on the provisions didn't work, showing that the GOP is still strained to pass the controversial SAVE Act and get it to President Donald Trump's desk before midterm primary voting begins in earnest. While the majority of Republican senators are listed as co-sponsors, the bill would likely need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster, and House lawmakers are concerned that Democrats in the upper chamber would not be easy to divide over voting rights. Some Senate Republicans have also expressed hesitancy. Among them is Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, who said that the voter ID push is not how we build trust. When Democrats attempted to advance sweeping election reform legislation in 2021, Republicans were unanimous in opposition because it would have federalized elections, something we have long opposed. She said in a statement, one-size-fits-all mandates from Washington, D.C. seldom work in places like Alaska. So that's just a little fun thing that's happening. Obviously, we're going to get into a lot of big stories this week, but a smaller story that I had actually talked about organically on the bonus episode of Guys We Fucked that came out today. And then I got an email about it from Wacko Hillary. So I do want to cover it because this will be our Wacko mailbag story for this week. And if you want to send me a Wacko mailbag story, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. But, this supposedly took place in my neighborhood, which is, I'm guessing, why it came up on my algorithm, because I don't follow this person, nor was I familiar with this person. But Hillary writes, Luke Andrew Kelly, the founder of Luke Lamp company, known for its high-end custom LED rope lights. I believe on the podcast today, I described his company as like a company that sells fancy sconces. So I wasn't far off. Is either in the middle of a full-on mental breakdown or genuinely in some serious danger. Either way, the dude desperately needs help. This whole saga reeks of trauma. He's claiming on Instagram Lives that he was abused, beaten, raped, locked in boxes, the works, as a kid in the secretive Manhattan cult Congregation for the Light, aka the School. And this is why I wanted to bring it up on this podcast, because I know if there's one thing that everyone who listens to this podcast loves, it's cults, okay? And again, I saw the video. I mean, he was fucked up. He was punched in the eye, whatever. And my introduction to this man, Luke Andrew Kelly, was a video of him to camera in what he says is his apartment, saying that he was downtown in Manhattan and got jumped by 3 individuals after he apparently had said he was dedicating his life to stopping sex trafficking. And this answered some of my questions because I was like, what sex trafficking are you stopping? Like, what specific form, adult, child? I was just a little unclear about everything. I didn't know if it was related to the Epstein files, perhaps the release of the Epstein files, if he himself is a survivor, triggered him. I don't know. And he said, and now he's vowing to shut down his business and dedicate his life to fighting child sex trafficking and pedophilia. He's doxed himself on live amid erratic posts. Looks like he's pissed the wrong people off and got the shit beaten out of him, etc. This appears to either be genuine trauma surfacing or a serious mental health episode. If it's legit, I respect the hell out of the fight. If it's unhinged, someone get him off the internet and into real support. Either way, this ain't the vibe for the rope light empire building anymore. I mean, listen, I'm going to approach this with like, I believe him until we have reason not to, the same as I would as any woman coming forward with claims of sexual assault, obviously. And there's links to a lot of stuff, obviously, like his company on Instagram is Luke Lamp Co. And I did see the Instagram of him getting his ass beat, which is, he did a collab post between Luke Andrew Kelly, all spelled out, and Luke Lamp Co. But there's a story in the New York Post and the New Yorker about this cult. I am going to take the one from the New Yorker just because I think the New Yorker is more reputable than the New York Post. I think most people can agree on that. I guess maybe not hardcore Republicans, but New York Post, I do use them on this show because I don't think it's complete trash, but I have mixed feelings about it, especially, if it's something that needs to be handled with kid gloves, maybe because it's sensitive.
That is my paper of record.
I'm sorry, what?
That's my paper of record. Like, people say the New York Times is the paper of record.
Okay.
If it's not in the New York Post, I don't want to hear it.
Okay. Well, there you go. So this says under review, and it's from June 14th, 2023. So just a heads up, it is an old article, but I think, we're talking about something that is old, so it doesn't really matter. And it's interesting that they had done a piece on it that we are now, it seems like this guy has experienced something, similar to the kind of provost school that Paris Hilton has advocated for so openly. The Upper West Side cult that hid in plain sight in the 60s and 70s.
Advocated against.
Sorry. Yeah. If I said advocated for,
yeah.
I meant like advocated for herself and for survivors
places.
of the school. Yes.
I also went to one of those, for the record.
Yeah, I know. I always forget that because you turned out so well. I honestly do. Like,
so did Paris.
You honestly don't seem like a trauma survivor, and I do mean that as a compliment. Yeah, not that trauma survivors can't turn out well. Obviously, many do, but many do not. Paris did turn out great. I love Paris. I got to watch that movie about her, the documentary I think that came out. I didn't watch it yet. But this says the Upper West Side cult that hid in plain sight, as the best cults do. In the 60s and 70s, the Sullivanian Institute had a winning sales pitch for young New Yorkers: parties, sex, low rent, and affordable therapy. Cults thrive in isolation, and this poses a challenge for the urban cult leader. Jim Jones of the People's Temple exerted an unsettling degree of influence on San Francisco politics of the late 1970s, but was eventually forced to flee to his doomed jungle outpost in Guyana. Charles Manson made halting inroads in the late 60s Los Angeles music scene while his family hunkered down on the 55-acre Spawn movie ranch. And just in case you're not familiar with Charles Manson, when I say his family, I don't mean his biological family. His family is what he called his followers, just in case you're not familiar with that. Scientology has prominent real estate holdings in major cities across the world, but its elite management unit, the Sea Org, was originally intended to operate in international waters in order to evade government and media scrutiny. Oh, yeah. I am going to attempt to wear my Where is Shelly Miscavige hat to the airport tomorrow and see where that journey takes me. So if I killed myself tomorrow, no, I didn't. At its peak in the mid to late 70s, the Psychoanalytic Association, known as the Sullivanian Institute, had as many as 600 patient members clustered in apartment buildings that the group bought or rented on the cheap on Manhattan's Upper West Side. They also ran an experimental theater troupe called The Fourth Wall on the Lower East Side. The Sullivanians adhered to the same principles and traditions as many of the ashrams and rural intentional communities of the era. Polyamory, communal living, group parenting, socialist politics, but they all my favorite things. But they came to their belief system through the gateway of psychoanalysis, the self-actualization tool of the urbane intellectual. And they enacted their beliefs on a crowded concrete island of nearly 1.5 million people, often while holding down high-status jobs as physicians, attorneys, computer programmers, and academics. Maybe this cult is the root of why, and I know you guys push back on me, some of you push back on me a lot about this, but there is something about socialist politics that doesn't feel right and feels rooted in rich and privileged people, which is my inherent issue with it. It is politics that is supposed to be for everyone that feels like it's rooted and derived and supported most by very rich people, but a certain kind of rich, like an intellectual rich person, right? But and there's something about intellectual rich people where we think that they are more trustworthy, and I don't know where that idea came from, because no, they're fucking not. The Institute's co-founder and reigning tyrant Saul Newton, who sat atop the organization from the mid-1950s until the mid-1980s, he died in 1991, may have come closer than any of his far more notorious peers to establishing a truly metropolitan cult. Its members visible, but its practices obscure. The son of Russian Jews who immigrated to Canada, Newton was combative and mercurial, a one-time communist labor organizer who had fought in the Spanish Civil War. He had no medical degree or psychoanalytic training, but one of his wives, Jane Pierce, trained under the renowned American psychiatrist Harry Stack Sullivan, one of the pioneers of interpersonal analysis. Sullivan, who died in 1949, eschewed the Freudian paradigm of the therapist as a blank screen. The interpersonal analyst might find opportunities to make reciprocal conversation with patients or even offer advice. Newton and Pierce pushed this more interventionist model in an aggressive authoritarian direction when they co-founded the Sullivanian Institute in 1957. As Alexander Still writes in his juicy, fascinating The Sullivanians, Sex, Psychotherapy, and the Wild Life of an American Commune, Sullivanian therapists became the chief authorities in a patient's life, and their forceful guidance reflected Newton and Pierce's antipathy. Wait. Sorry. This is like, how do you correctly say this word? That's pathetic that I don't know how to say that. I know you totally make fun of me. You all know that I don't know. I know what it works. How it's antipathy, right? The word is not sounding right out of my mouth right now.
Antipathy.
Okay, it is right. Antipathy. You know when you say a word and you're just like, that doesn't feel like it's coming out of my mouth right. Antipathy is right. Toward conventions such as monogamy and filial piety. Newton's Times obituary dryly noted, most mental health experts view the Newton group as having distorted Mr. Sullivan's name and theories. Sounds like the Bible. The Sullivanians' bête noire was the nuclear family, which they identified as the wellspring of all human pathology. To shake off bourgeoisie norms, Sullivanian patients lived with same-sex roommates and cultivated close platonic friendships replete with tween-style sleepovers. They had lots of heterosexual partners. In fact, turning down most any sexual proposition from a group member was frowned upon. But they were not allowed to form steady romantic relationships. To a Sullivanian, Still explains sexual jealousy was a byproduct of a capitalist mentality that saw marriage and monogamy as a form of ownership. What I always find so interesting in all these cults is like, they're all about getting your mind right or finding purpose or finding place in the world, but then they all have this weird fucking sexual thing attached to that. And, obviously I am very respectful of sexuality, and I think sexuality is important. I have an entire podcast, dedicated to being, having control over your pleasure and sex as a part of being human. But I don't think that there is any, like, when religions or cults or any of these things start talking about sex, I immediately am turned off. A red flag goes up because to me, sex is a very individual experience, and anyone who is telling you like to be a part of this group or to belong here or to be doing the right thing, you have to have sex in this way. I mean, other than like laws that are like you can't fuck kids. Other than that, um, like this is very, very odd to me. And that should be a red flag, I think, in your life if anyone else is ever telling you, again, unless it's something about harming other people, as in pedophilia or rape or that kind of thing, if any large structure or group that you're a part of is telling you how to have sex, and it's like telling you, not a recommendation, or trying this new thing, like that is such a red flag. Jackson Pollock, an early Sullivanian patient, was a fan of the method in part because he could cheat on his wife. Oh, Jackson Pollock, yeah, real upstanding guy there. Higher ups prodded Sullivanians to renounce their parents and other blood relatives. One member ceased contact with her 12-year-old sister because the girl stopped going to therapy. Women had to seek permission to get pregnant. While trying to conceive, they would have sex with multiple men in order to create ambiguity about their child's biological father. Newton, for his part, did not lead by example. Pierce was his fourth wife, and there was no uncertainty about the paternity of Newton's 10 children. Wives number 5 and 6, Joan Harvey and Helen Moses, were also therapists whom Newton installed as top lieutenants in the Sullivanian enterprise. The exact appeal of a cult can be impenetrable to outsiders and even to its ex-members. But in the 60s and 70s, the Sullivanian Institute had a winning sales pitch for young New Yorkers: parties, sex, low rent, and affordable therapy. Therapists at the Institute were also willing to write letters to the draft board on behalf of patients who were psychologically unfit, well, there you go, to serve in the war in Vietnam. A powerful recruitment tool for the group, absolutely. Everyone was friends with...
Hey, do you want to go to Nam or join a polycule?
Yeah, I know.
That's tough.
I honestly would choose Nom, but I hear you. Everyone was like easily. Everyone
You would just be Jane Fonda posing on tanks over there.
Everyone was friends with everyone else. Dozens of young people in a handful of nearby buildings, in and out of one another's apartments, playing music, having parties, still writes. The novelist Richard Price, who was a creative writing student at Columbia when he became involved in the group in 1972, told Still, "It felt to me like this is just add water and it's instant friends. And, girls are going in and out. It's instant sex life." Suddenly, Price went on, "It's like somebody opened the gates of heaven." Oh, here we go. As in many places mistaken for heaven, the guy at the top mistook himself for God. Newton's bulldozing megalomania helped to secure the Sullivanian Institute's initial success and also ensured its collapse. By the 1980s, Newton and his top therapists had demoniac control over their patients' sex lives, social lives, how they earned or spent money. Much of their income was swallowed up in dues, fines, and assessments owed to the Institute. It's all the same cult over and over again. And how they raised or usually didn't raise their children. So it's like, we have control of your money. We're going to do some kind of communal children raising where the children belong to the cult. They don't belong to you as individuals. There's some weird sex thing going on. You're isolated from other, people in your family. And when you leave the group, you have to not talk to the people in the group anymore. Like, come on, it's the same shit over and over again. The idyllic commune was overrun by snakes and pestilence, financial exploitation, physical and sexual abuse, child neglect, and mushrooming paranoia. In Still's view, the Sullivanian Institute encapsulates one of the great themes of the 20th century: the tendency of utopian projects of social liberation to take a totalitarian turn. In The Dialectic of Sex from 1970, the radical feminist Shulamith Firestone imagined abolishing the patriarchal nuclear family, a form of social organization that intensifies the worst effects of inequality inherent in the biological family itself, she wrote. She saw a future in which children could be gestated artificially outside of a human womb and raised communally. These technological and cultural advancements, Firestone believed, would help guarantee greater freedom and autonomy for women and children alike. Women will be excused from the reproductive obligations, pregnancy, childbirth, nursing, caregiving, that subordinated them to men's power, and children would be spared the Oedipal neuroses that the nuclear family tends to imprint. Firestone did not romanticize mothers or motherhood. The bond between a woman and her child, she wrote, was a breeding ground for anxiety and neediness, a mere alliance of the oppressed. The Sullivanians went further. They cast the mother herself as the oppressor. The Conditions of Human Growth, a book co-authored by Newton and Pierce and published in 1963, depicted early motherhood as an unmitigated nightmare. Still writes, a kind of death trap from which both parent and child need to be liberated, in which the child is conditioned to muffle her own needs and desires in order to placate her overwhelmed, soon enraged mother. Under Sullivanian analysis, Jackson Pollock took to referring to his mother as, quote, that old womb with a built-in tomb. The couple's ideas likely had autobiographical underpinnings. Newton's mother, still writes, was embittered and domineering, while Pierce had suffered bouts of severe postpartum depression. These ideas about mothers and families were also shared by some of the most prominent public intellectuals of the time in the fields of psychiatry and psychology. In the mid-60s, the Scottish psychiatrist R.D. Laing declared that mothers conflate love with violence and likened the nuclear family both to a gas chamber and to a racketeering ring, one that produced the frightened, cowed, abject creature that we are admonished to be if we are to be normal, offering each other mutual protection from our own violence. The psychologist Bruno Bettelheim, an Austrian-born survivor of Dachau and Buchenwald, compared the mothers of autistic children to Nazi prison guards. The Sullivanian framework militated against the dangers posed by the mother by limiting her time with her children even in their infancy. Babysitters did most of the caregiving, and kids not yet old enough to read were packed off to grim boarding schools where physical and sexual abuse were rampant. Two of the more unbearable episodes in the Sullivanians involve the hapless D.D. Agee, the daughter of the writer James Agee, or is Aggie. I think is it James Aggie? Again, if I would ever hear anything out loud, not written, it would really be helpful. 1 second. A-G. A-I-G? I rhymes with day or may. Day. A-G. Oh, no. Okay. A-G is right. Writer James Agee. In 1974, at the recommendation of her Sullivanian therapist, Agee sent her son Teddy, age 5, to boarding school, when Teddy's father took the miserable boy to come live with him instead. Agee and a few Sullivanian comrades sneaked into his house, snatched the boy, and dumped him back at the dreaded school. After the birth of another son, David, in 1983, Agee was placed under harsh surveillance by her housemates. When the baby did the usual baby things like cry or spit up, it was held as evidence that Agee was manipulating the child to need her. At one point, Newton decreed that Agee could nurse David for only 7 minutes per breast. Agee eventually extracted herself from this perpetual struggle session with some strategic inveigling of Helen Moses, Newton's final wife, and of Newton himself, then 77, who was sufficiently flattered by Agee's supplications that he began having sex with her. We blame everything on mothers, and quite often for good reason. As Carmela Soprano once said to Livia Soprano, you know the power that you have, and you use it like a pro. You are bigger than life. You are his mother. If something goes wrong with a child, the mother will loom large, either for her presence or for her absence. What the Sullivanian approach neglected to acknowledge, though, was that if you sever a child's ties to their parents, an equally destructive parent manque, Jesus Christ, they're really going out of their way to use words that I don't think most people have ever heard of. This is a French word. I don't know what this means. Having failed to become what might have been unfulfilled. Okay, parent manque, whether it's Saul Newton or the poorly trained staff at a squalid boarding school, might fill the void. They fuck you up, your mom and dad, but almost anyone will do. The Sullivanians is disjointed and sometimes repetitive, and it probably takes too many liberties in reconstructing word-for-word hearsay quotations dating back 40 years or more. This is not a sleek or felicitous work, but it scarcely matters when so much of the reporting is this good. The story this pulpy and bizarre, the human behavior on display so appalling. Like all cult leaders, Newton ignored his own principles when it suited him, while taking others to sadistic extremes, such as the Sullivanian commitment to free love. He demanded oral sex from seemingly every young woman he encountered in or out of session, hounding young one patient, Ellen, on a nearly daily basis for almost 20 years. And like all violent patriarchs, Newton triggered cycles of abuse across and down generations. Helen matured into one of the Institute's most awful therapists, at one point urging a teenager who had overslept her alarm to kill herself. When a rank and file well, I guess that's what the kind of advice you're going to give if you were forced to give a blowjob every day to some guy you didn't want to give a blowjob to. When a rank and file Sullivanian named Maurice Papo gave birth to her daughter Jessica in 1985 and instantly fell under the same constraints and condemnations that DDAG had suffered. AG was one of the loudest voices attacking her. By that point, the Sullivanian Institute was splintering under the weight of defections, custody battles, negative media attention, and investigations into professional misconduct. At least 4 of the group's therapists, including Joan Harvey and Helen Moses, lost their licenses. Adult children of the cult began connecting with one another to share the detective work of tracking down biological fathers and siblings, which made for a strange and ironic ending to the story of a group that had set out to dismantle the nuclear family, Still writes. His book demonstrates that in destroying the family, the Sullivanians also replicated its ugliest dynamics. Newton as the tyrannical father, his therapist wives as the enabling mothers, and the lower-ranking patients as their terrified children scrambling for their unattainable approval. Estrangement is a commonplace in such fractured families. Enforced estrangement from both the blood family and the outside world is a common tool of control in cults. The curse of the Sullivanian experience was that estrangement was essential to the project and yet impossible. There you were, living in the same apartment as the person whom you slept with but weren't allowed to love, the children whom you'd born but couldn't raise. Wow. Okay, so I mean that's just like a piece of it, but that's like so crazy that wasn't even familiar with this cult. But anyway, so this guy Luke Andrew Kelly is saying that he was brought up into that cult. Now you're familiar with that cult. Again, follows a lot of the same criteria as pretty much every cult that we've covered on here that we've either read about or watched a documentary about. It's all the same thing over and over again. But as the hat that so many of you purchased says, not immune from joining a cult, right? So we'll keep an eye on that story. That's kind of like a local cult-based thing that I find very interesting. But you know, it doesn't talk. It talks about sexual abuse and like children being kind of communally raised. It doesn't specifically speak to the sex trafficking, but again, that, you know, just aligns with everything that's going on in the world. Yes, Mike?
I mean, when it says that he hounded a young woman for head every day for 20 years.
That's not trafficking, though. That's child sexual abuse. That's not trafficking. You have to move them to traffic them.
I thought it was just like providing
I believe
kids. It's like, hey, we have access to these kids. New members are coming in.
Right, but I mean,
you're
trafficking.
If these kids.
If he was then providing them for other people, yes. But if he was just doing it himself, like he was just abusing it himself, I wouldn't call it trafficking. But I don't know, maybe human.
That would
No.
It would be tough to believe that over the course of 20 years, he didn't take her to like Jersey City one time.
Right. Because it can be because it does include recruiting, transporting, but like, yeah, it's human trafficking is the act of recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving individuals through force, fraud, or coercion. So yes, it would, because then it's just coercion and recruiting. Yeah, I thought that you had to like move or provide to other people to be defined as that, but no, you're right. You don't have to. It's under the umbrella of things that it can be labeled as. But you know what, guys? What I learned today: human trafficking is a little broader than I had initially assessed. So, wow, it's not as hard as I thought to, I guess, get charged with human trafficking specifically. All right, so there you go.
What do you think it was like the first day that he stopped harassing her for oral sex?
I mean, she probably thought he died or like something was wrong.
Yeah, right?
Because if something becomes habit, 20 years.
It's like 20. It's like, all right, you know,
she was probably like, I kind of want to get on with my day. Can I get this, text or whatever, how it was coming through?
Right.
Like I got, like a woman, you're like, I got things to do.
Yeah, now this is on my to-do list for the day.
Yeah, you're just like, oh my God, he's fucking taking forever today. I have to do the laundry.
I got to vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering, yeah, like, do you think she ordered a wellness check that day?
I don't know if she ordered a wellness check, but
I mean, she was a
how fucked up was she in the mind? Did she even know that a wellness check was a thing that you could order? Because then she should order one for herself.
Yeah.
Um,
If she's still alive, that's someone who I'd really like to talk to.
yeah, I would say maybe don't open with that. Maybe be a little bit more kind to her situation.
Sure.
Just a recommendation.
No, I'll just grill her.
Don't open with how was it being forced to give oral every day.
No. I'm going to open with all the bad things she did to get her on the back foot.
Oh my god.
Because the article talks about it, so why can't I?
Wow. All right. Going into some, it's not, not by definition local government, but I wanted to talk about some people who are running for different offices. Oh my god, why is this loading like crazy? So we don't even have to go into this whole thing. If you're in Florida, there is a fucking crazy gubernatorial candidate Republican named James Fishback who posted this.
Crazy. That's a wild way to introduce like
the guy you're voting for when you move to Florida.
I'm not moving to Florida ever. That sounds like a fate worse than death. But
I mean, he's brandishing a rifle like on his porch, saying we're gonna shoot anyone who comes in here. It's because someone set his house on fire.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's dealing with like legitimate threats.
Right.
People are threatening him and his life. People are lighting his property on fire. To respond to that by saying, I am armed, I will use my Second Amendment right to defend my property, does not sound like a nutcase. That sounds like someone who's actually got their head on straight.
So I don't think that I want anyone I'm electing brandishing a huge rifle on their porch.
I mean, Kamala Harris, the only time I've ever come close to thinking she was kind of cool is when she talked about how she is a gun owner. She's a prosecutor. Of course, she's a gun owner. But she was talking about how she's a gun owner. She knows how to use it, and she'll ice someone if they come into her house.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't, at no point am I going to say, no, my politician should not feel comfortable with a gun.
Let me go to his website. It's Fishback 2026. My name is James Fishback, and I am running to succeed Ron DeSantis as Florida's next Republican governor. I'm a fourth-generation Floridian, and I'm running to make life more affordable for you and your family. Literally everyone's fucking thing is the same. I'm fighting so every Floridian can earn a great-paying job, buy a home, raise a family, and retire with dignity. Donate to our movement. We need to start doing a shot every time a politician says donate to our movement. And I feel like I probably even in one of my emails we used movement, but then after I stopped my campaign, I feel like everyone then started using movement. I'm not saying I started it, but it was just like it became the word of the moment for certainly non-establishment politicians to use in their campaign. And I was like, I'm never using movement again. Now it just makes me think of poop. Florida is our home. America is our birthright, and we will never let them steal it from us. Who's them in that sentence, Mike? Who's them?
Whoever is attacking his campaign.
Who? I don't know. Who's okay? Them. There's so many people. I'm like them. Immigrants. Them.
So I do know he has
Democrats.
And
them.
No, I mean I listen. This is, to me, the most interesting politician that I've seen pop up all year. Like the same way that you're hyped on Kat. I found out you've been pronouncing her last name wrong this whole time.
No, I haven't. I got the pronunciation from watching a video of her say it.
Okay. I don't know.
You got it wrong.
I
went to her thousands of videos and I listened to how she said it.
Listen. Like,
how did they say it?
It was like
No.
I don't know.
Abu Ghazaleh.
I meant to send it to you.
No, I went to her video and I said, how does she?
Oh wait, you said Zayla?
Yeah.
I thought you've been saying Zayla. All right, so that's on me. I've just been my
I'm sure I pronounced it wrong the very first time I said it.
Yeah.
But
I think that's stuck in my mind, and I just my ears went on autopilot. I'm saying, regardless, this is my guy, right? Like the the one dude out there who's like, okay, every single policy that he's putting out actually makes sense to me. Now, the
He's
reason
kind
that
of a dork.
what?
He's kind of a dork.
He looks kind of like a dork,
Right.
but he looks like a dork with an AR-15. So it's like, all right, dude, whatever. You're a family man. It is what it is. But the like all of his policies are like, hey, you're spending $23,000 a year we're spending $23,000 a year per child on your taxes. If you're homeschooling your kid, why shouldn't that money go to you instead of the state? And I was like, that's a concept I can get behind it. I don't hear any other politicians saying that. He said something like, hey, let's stop investing, money in foreign governments that we see a return on that just keeps getting reinvested. Let's invest in Florida homeowners and put that money towards, first-time home buyers or something.
Okay, but then to go back to his policy about if you're homeschooling your child, that money should go to you. But what if you're someone who doesn't have children? Should then you not be paying taxes towards public education at all, or do you just get fucked? I don't think that's getting fucked. Like, that's my personal opinion. I'm happy to contribute to the future of America. But what was his stance on this?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I just like the framing. The framing of it was, hey, we're spending X amount of dollars per child right now. If you're responsible for that child, why shouldn't you get the money instead of the district? Which it's like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
If you're not responsible for any children, yeah, you probably should get some kind of a rebate. But I don't know. He is a Republican, super family, family first and all that.
Yeah. And then again, why did I not? Sorry, I'm realizing now read this name 50 times and never looked up how to pronounce it. The New Jersey. What?
Fishback?
No, I know how to pronounce fishback. Mejia. That's Spanish. Okay. So I think it's Analila Mejia. So this was going back and forth. If you've been following New Jersey politics, there was a special primary in New Jersey, and at first, Mejia was the winner, and then they went back, and they're like, we're going to check it again. But Analia Mejia will win the special primary in New Jersey, the 11th congressional district, in a tight race over former Representative Tom Malinowski, a major win for an ally of Senator Bernie Sanders and other progressives. And this, a lot of time, people are saying that a lot of AIPAC money went into Malinowski's campaign, and so that's why it was really of note that Anna still was able to pull out, and it was close. It was 29.3% to 27.6% in votes. It was 18,976 votes to 17,931. So again, your vote does matter. And of course, Malinowski blamed AIPAC, which helped fund a group that spent roughly $2 million on ads targeting him. But I think why is that going against? It was still anti-AIPAC. I thought it was also going against someone else. And this is another note. She also she gave me, and something of note, which we saw in Zohran Mamdani's campaign, is that Mejia ran a very positive campaign. I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of people. So there's a couple things we're seeing. We're seeing people not taking AIPAC money, people being more excessively left of center if you're going to win as a Democrat, people who are running positive campaigns. So I don't think attack ads are really working anymore. People are sick of them. They don't really want to hear what's bad about the other candidate. They want to hear why you're good, what you have to offer, what your policies are, and basically how you're going to save them money and make them have a better life. That's what voters really seem to be showing up to the polls and voting in favor of. Let's see. It says Malinowski, the group United Democracy Project, sought in its ads to portray Malinowski as supportive of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, pointing to a 2019 vote for a bipartisan spending bill that provided funding to the agency. That doesn't even make any sense, though, that would be the reason that he lost, because it's you're losing to a woman who's named Analila Mejia. Like, obviously that's not, you're not losing because you're supporting immigrants. I think this is just like a story he's telling himself. But the exciting thing about it is that these really like more progressive candidates and these underdogs are consistently winning in these elections where it doesn't seem like they have a chance. And Mejia was the political director on Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign. And she was also backed by Elizabeth Warren and AOC. And she was the former head of the Working Families Alliance in New Jersey and is currently serving as one of the executive directors of Popular Democracy, a network of grassroots organizations. So again, we're seeing like instead of these career politicians, we're seeing a lot of activists, organizers, and people who spent their life committed to things like that, winning these elections. Just and again, definitely less moderate and like way further left. So I'm glad that, because that was kind of in limbo for a little while there, but I'm glad that she finally was announced the winner. That is huge news. I just didn't want to announce it until she was officially been like, yes, we got it locked in. I want to move on to our another one of our main stories now. Obviously, like me debunking the magnifying glass was a big part of it. The death of James Van Der Beek, I do think, fight me, was a top story, certainly the top story of my day. And then the third thing, obviously the news has been inundated with Epstein files, a little bit of Super Bowl this week, and then with ICE. But I think something that came out today that's very interesting that I saw pretty much no news reports on yet. And maybe that's because journalists haven't had the time to go through it. But I think there would have been something written about it. I think perhaps the reason that I didn't see more news articles about it was because it wasn't something that will cause us to fight. It's kind of just statistics that were released. It's bipartisan. It doesn't, there's no virality to it unless you just love actually getting information. But the FBI did release their domestic violence special report. And I think that's obviously something that we talk about a lot on the show, domestic violence in general. And I basically kind of tried to summarize through the report. And so this is a summarization of it. So domestic violence is rising as a share of violent crime over the 5-year period studied, and it was 2020 through 2024. The percentage of violent crimes committed within domestic relationships increased. This means more violent crimes are happening inside homes and relationships, not in public spaces. Obviously, we kind of knew this. The most dangerous place for many people, especially women, is still, unfortunately, inside their home. There were over 11,000 domestic violence murders in those 5-year studied. Law enforcement reported 11,000 plus murder victims killed by intimate partners or family members, 1.1 million total domestic violence victims across murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. And that would convert to over 2,000 domestic violence killings per year, or about 6 per day. Nearly 75% of the victims are women. 3 out of 4 victims in reported domestic violence crime were female. This demolishes the both sides equally framing. Men can absolutely be victims, but the scale and severity overwhelmingly fall on women, which again, I mean, we knew this. And again, it's not to take away from male survivors of domestic violence or male victims of domestic violence, but it's just to say, like, this is a woman problem, or primarily a woman problem. And I think we talk about that a lot because we go, well, that's in our assessment the reason why it's not taken more seriously, right? Teen relationship violence is shockingly widespread. This part really I found to be really upsetting. In 2024 alone, there were 70,500 plus incidents of teen relationship violence. That's approximately 193 incidents every single day among minors, meaning early normalization of abuse patterns. Obviously, if you grew up in a home where that is what you saw, the relationship structure look like. You have both a higher likelihood to exhibit those behaviors of violence in your own relationship, and or to tolerate those behaviors in your own relationship. Um, Domestic violence remains a mass casualty problem, not a private problem. The FBI in this report specifically tracked murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, all within domestic and family relationships. This confirms that domestic violence is one of the largest drivers of serious violent crime in the U.S., not an isolated or niche issue. And the key kind of takeaway was that the violence is moving inward. So while overall violent crime nationally has actually declined, domestic violence is becoming a larger share of the violence that remains. And I think that that speaks to a lot of things. I think some of it is patterns and behaviors that started during COVID that then continued if those relationships didn't end. In addition to those behaviors starting, there was a lot of mental health issues that really got blown up during COVID. And so, many of those mental health issues, I think, were expanded and probably not resolved during that time. Some other suggestions were that economic stress, housing insecurity, kind of meaning that people are living in places, because of their economic stress and because there's not as much housing available, that they're putting themselves in or tolerating dangerous situations that if they had the financial ability to leave, they would not be in that situation. Social isolation, our obsession with our phones means that we maybe don't have the in-person, in real life network of friends and family that people of previous generations had. And so when we need help, when we need to reach out, maybe we don't have a close friend to reach out to. And maybe if we are from a family where domestic violence was tolerated, maybe we don't have a family member who understands, which is then why you would want to move to a friend. And then you maybe go to your phone and you go, I don't even really know that I'm that close with any of these people. Like, who is someone who I feel close enough with to reach out and be like, hey, I'm being physically abused and I need help creating a plan to escape this abusive situation. And then, I do think that political radicalization does have a lot to do with that. And there is a story that we're going to talk about, a dad murdering his daughter over an argument about Donald Trump that goes hand in hand with this. And that's certainly, I didn't, those two things both came out this week, but I think they really go well together. And I think also kind of the content that, men in general are taking in. So we know the Republican Party got a lot more men. And specifically, if you became a Republican, in the past couple of years, you are being introduced to a very specific brand of being a Republican. It's not like traditional Republican. It is, fully MAGA, alt-right, Republican, much more back to these traditional family structures, back to women being trad wives, women in the kitchen, this emphasis on women, having children and being married, and if they're have control over their sexuality, that they are whores, and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, and all this kind of talk that does infiltrate people's brains. And it's a lot more back into be a man, have control over your woman, don't be crying, don't be emotional, take charge, get a gun, fight for your family, you're white, you're a man, this rules. And I definitely think that is taking its toll on many women in their households. We see the violence that people who sign up for ICE are inflicting on, strangers in the streets. I mean, do you really honestly think any of those people who are married or who have girlfriends or, going home and buying them a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day. No, they're probably beating the shit out of them too. Like that's an anger and a rage that just like cannot be controlled. So I thought it was a really interesting time for this to come out, and also was like floored that I couldn't find one mainstream. And I get, this is not an instance where I need a source to back it up. This was released on the FBI's official website, but like I did need to use sorry, but I had to use AI to help me go through it and summarize it because no article had done it. And like, I didn't have hours and hours and hours to go through it myself. But like, that's kind of the issue. It's like, I'm interested to see how many people ultimately do cover this, because I think it's a really interesting story. But yeah, like it's not super clickbaity. I guess you could do a report on political radicalization and the rise of domestic violence. Obviously, I think that would take a little bit of time to put together. You wouldn't have it the same day that this report came out. But I do think that's an interesting kind of angle to go on. But really, really, really disheartening, especially in a time when we have this positive news on violence as a whole going down. It's still this specific targeted violence against women has not. And again, I would love to be alive during a time when the most dangerous place for a woman is not inside her own home. Or I guess I could just keep living by myself, which is my ultimate goal. So, and then,
Yeah, but the stairs are a problem for you too. So watch out.
I'm sorry, what?
You've said before you fall down the stairs multiple times. A month or whatever.
I did not say that I
number
fall
you
down
were
the stairs
saying when you were
multiple
trying to
times a month.
Joe Biden
Are you okay?
falling down the stairs. I don't remember. You said it.
I do not fall down the stairs multiple times a month.
I just wanted to point out there was a hearing today in Minnesota. Like a lot of the like state representatives were grilling, different people. They were arguing about ICE, and one of the lady state reps brought up like the numbers on ICE agents themselves, right? And it's like the insane elevated rates of domestic violence, of sexual abuse, of
meaning their stats rose while they were employed by ICE, or the men employed by ICE have a rate of these things that is much higher than any other organization.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, no, that one. It was like
right.
Like there was a thing that said even before this, like even before they ramped up financing,
right.
since the inception of ICE, like as an arm of the whatever it is, Homeland Security, like every month there has been some case of like wild violent abuse off the clock for an ICE agent. Just like they get drunk and get into fights with people, I guess. Right.
Well,
So
even
it's
the death of Keith Porter, that was off the clock,
But like but that was at least like we looked at that and we're like, okay, that one is probably the least insane of all.
No,
of
for sure, and it's really sad, and I hate, but it's different. It's different than the other ones.
Yeah, they're they're absolutely monsters.
And so, yeah, and this goes hand in hand with, this isn't American, but this is from BBC. Dad shot daughter after arguing about Donald Trump. So a British woman who was shot dead by her father while visiting his home in Texas had argued with him about U.S. President Donald Trump earlier that day. An inquest has heard. Lucy Harrison from Warrington in Cheshire was shot in the chest on January 10th, 2025 in Prosper near Dallas. And now this is weird because this was posted 24 hours ago, and now they're saying it was 2025, but I'm like, is this a typo? Because I'm like, this story literally only just started circulating today, which it still wouldn't make sense because it's February. I just went to a different place to get this, but let me see. Shot dead by Trump. Yeah, because I'm like, this article came out in the past 24 hours. Let me just The Guardian here. Interesting. Yeah, no, that is. I wonder what. Yeah, I'm like. Trump was on. Oh, okay. It's because the ruling from the coroner came in. That's why I was like, there has to be a reason why this one. Okay. So here, The Guardian explains it. So let me take it for care because the other article is not super well written. So a Cheshire woman who was shot dead by her reckless father while visiting him in the U.S. after a row about Donald Trump was unlawfully killed, a coroner has ruled. Lucy Harrison, 23, who lived in Warrington and worked as a fashion buyer for Boohoo, was shot in the chest with a semi-automatic handgun by Chris Harrison while staying at his home in Prosper, Texas on January 10th of last year, 2025. Chris Harrison, an alcoholic who had been drinking earlier in the day, pointed the gun at his daughter and pulled the trigger, senior coroner Jacqueline Devenish ruled. He was never charged by Texas police in relation to her death after claiming the gun went off accidentally while he lifted it to show her. Crazy that they went along with that explanation for so long. At the conclusion of the 2-day hearing at Cheshire Coroner's Court, Devenish found Harrison knew full well he had shot his own daughter, pointing a gun at chest height and pulling the trigger. She ruled Lucy died due to unlawful killing on the grounds of gross negligence manslaughter. Sam Littler, Lucy's boyfriend, who was with her on this trip, told the inquest that she had become upset earlier that day after having quite a big argument with her father about Trump, who was due to be inaugurated as president later that month. Lucy had asked her father, "How would you feel if I was the girl in that situation and I'd been sexually assaulted?" He responded that it would not upset him that much. Nice. Littler said he always felt on edge while visiting, adding that there was a lot of very opinionated people in the house. He said his girlfriend's father had spoken in the past about taking the gun out of the box and walking around with it, quote, like James Bond. A friend of Lucy's also gave evidence saying that she had confessed she felt extremely anxious in her father's home due to volatility. She said Lucy was categorically anti-gun and was worried about there being a firearm in the house with her 2 younger half-sisters. Fuck. On the day Lucy was shot, Littler said he witnessed Harrison taking his daughter by the hand in a mysterious manner about 30 minutes before they were due to leave and led her to his bedroom where he kept a Glock 9mm pistol. So, I mean, this is like, that is not even in a moment of rage. This is fully fucking planned. Taking someone by the hand and leading to the bedroom. Because when I first was looking into this story, I was thinking like, not that it was okay in any manner, but I was like, how do you get to a point where you're killing your own daughter? Because like, this is fucked up to say, but I think like killing your daughter, I think is totally different than killing your partner. The relationship that you have with your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, like, not that it's okay, but like, you can understand in a different way how you can get to the point of wanting to kill someone. Killing your own kid, that I can't wrap my head around.
You've clearly never had your daughter push a banana into the couch while staring you in the face.
Well, I understand how people accidentally kill their kids. Like if like they like slap them and say knock it off or something and the kid falls and hits their head. I totally understand how you can while being angry at your kid accidentally, but that's different than like a planned kill. Leading your daughter by the hand calmly to a bedroom to then shoot her in the chest. That's fucking mind-blowing to me. Within about 15 seconds, he heard a loud bang, which he had initially thought was a prank by Harrison. Harrison, who works as an executive at a fiber optics company and moved to the U.S. when Lucy was a child, said he kept the lethal weapon for home defense, for which he did not need a license in the state of Texas. He did not attend the hearing, but produced a statement claiming Lucy had asked him to see the gun. No, she didn't. As I lifted the gun to show her, I asked my alcoholic dad, who I'm really scared of, to see his gun, and I also notoriously hate guns. Okay.
We're in the middle of an argument about politics.
Right. As I lifted the gun to show her, I suddenly heard a loud bang. I did not understand what had happened. Lucy immediately fell. He told police who attended the scene, "We got it out to have a look, and just as I picked it up, it just went off." However, the coroner ruled that Harrison was a secret drinker who had, on the balance of probabilities, been teasing his daughter with the gun when he shot her dead. She said I don't even believe that he was just teasing her. If he took her by the hand and led her to the thing, unless he was trying to like take it out to threaten her and then like didn't actually mean to kill her. Again, that's weird. She said she accepted that he did not know the gun was loaded when he pointed it at her and pulled the trigger. She added, his actions have killed his own daughter, and in the cold light of day, it is hoped that he now recognizes the risk he posed to her life in circumstances in which he had no experience of guns, had undertaken no training, and had never fired a gun. So I guess it's like, it's still a little up in the air about whether, like, how planned this was, if it was just a scare tactic. Obviously, like, the article was meant to, be polarizing and make people click on it. Like, look, Trump is causing fights with families that are, causing dads to kill their daughters. But that is really, I think that goes hand in hand with that FBI domestic violence report. It's just like people are just out of their minds to prove themselves right. And, I think also coming out of a time, like, I guess, like, around 10, 12 years ago when Guys We Fuck first came out, when this new wave of feminism was really going strong. And there was, I think, a time when men feared that they would have to rise to the occasion and become feminists and treat women as equals. And they said, absolutely not on our watch. And this is the part of the result of that. All right. A little bit of the Epstein stuff. We'll get into girl now. Again, there's just so much every single week. It's like I have so much I want to talk to you about. We just don't have the time unless we sat here all day. But this is from the BBC. 4 takeaways from Pam Bondi's fiery Epstein testimony. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi defended the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files and faced a barrage of angry questions on other issues during a fiery congressional hearing on Wednesday. Her testimony before the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee descended at times into a shouting match, with Bondi at one point calling a Democrat a washed-up loser, and after another heated exchange, one lawmaker even stormed out. Here are some of the key exchanges from the 4-hour hearing. 1. Epstein victims watch as Bondi defends redactions. The hearing followed the release by the Justice Department earlier this year of millions more files from its investigations into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Several of Epstein's victims were seated behind Bondi at the hearing, and lawmakers frequently referenced them. In her opening statement, Bondi called Epstein a monster and told the victims she was sorry for the abuse they had endured. But lawmakers then directed a host of complaints at Bondi about how the Justice Department has handled its release of the files. Several criticized what they said was a failure to redact the names of victims, as was required by law. Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal said that in some cases, nude images of survivors were released, some of whom have had their identities protected for decades. Jayapal asked survivors in the room to stand and raise their hand if they had not been able to meet with the Justice Department, which led all of them to rise. Jayapal then asked Bondi to apologize to the victims for the Justice Department's handling of redactions. Bondi fired back, describing Jayapal's questioning as theatrics and adding, "I'm not going to get in the gutter with this woman." The Attorney General said at another point during the hearing that officials were doing their best to protect victims in the time frame allotted by the legislation, which required the files to be released. She said any names brought to them that have been released inadvertently have been immediately redacted. 2. Republicans join in over Epstein complaints. The hearing turned tense over names in the Epstein files that had been redacted too. A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers has accused the Justice Department of improperly removing the names of people from the files who are not protected. They have been allowed to review unredacted versions of the files, which has since led the Justice Department to unredact names in at least one document. Thomas Massie, a Republican who has been involved in these efforts, told Bondi he wanted to know who was responsible for the redactions and whether anybody will be held accountable for the failure. Massie went on to say that this issue is bigger than Watergate and spanned numerous U.S. administrations. Quote, "This is a political joke," Bondi said, as Massie continued to press her on why some people's names, including billionaire Les Wexner, had been blacked out from the files initially. And just to pause on Les Wexner for a second, who is the former CEO of Victoria's Secret,
But more importantly,
what?
I mean, that's sure. he came to prominence as the Victoria's Secret guy, but realistically, he's Jeffrey Epstein's financier.
Right.
Like, that's what he's most known for, is being Epstein's biggest client. Epstein's only client, for that matter.
Right. And I can't like, let me see. I'm trying to see what I would even Google to find this. But I almost forgot about this, that I knew that was their relationship, because I had been seeing something, and again, this could be just made up Instagram shit, which is why I didn't share it as a proper news story. But there was some talk of the reason why Victoria's Secret ended up coming out with Pink, like their younger, girlier lingerie line, was to kind of seamlessly kind of integrate younger, more childlike, more girlier individuals into this like sex world of Victoria's Secret. Because like, you remember, I guess like Pink became very hot while I was in middle school or high school, and Pink, what I'm referencing is, it's again like that more casual, girlier line that's, I think, still exists. I haven't been to Victoria's Secret in years. At Victoria's Secret, that was definitely more targeted towards young people, and it became very quickly very popular with at least high school students, and I think younger, people. And it was girly, and there was like stuffed dogs when you went into the pink section of Victoria's Secret. So I think, there was kind of conversation that this was a way to make parents feel comfortable bringing their young girls into a lingerie store. And like, I definitely own stuff by Pink, and it worked on me. Like, I had never shopped at Victoria's Secret previously. And Pink probably is what got me into the store for the first time. And again, that is not like, I don't have backup for that, but that was a conversation that was happening around Les Wexner and the Epstein files this week. Including billionaire Les Wexner had been blacked out from the files initially. FBI Director Kash Patel, who was also at the hearing, chimed in to say there was no evidence Epstein trafficked women to Wexner. Wexner has previously alleged that Epstein stole millions of dollars from him while working as his financial advisor. A legal representative of Wexner told the BBC the assistant U.S. attorney told Mr. Wexner's legal counsel in 2019 that Mr. Wexner was being viewed as source of information about Epstein and was not a target in any respect. Mr. Wexner cooperated fully by providing background information on Epstein and was never contacted again. 3, lawmaker asks about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. During the discussion of the Epstein files, California Democratic Representative Ted Lieu mentioned Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who is facing growing pressure from officials. And
Ted Lieu?
Is that how you say it? I don't know.
I think so.
Liu, who is facing growing pressure from officials and the family of his prominent accuser, Virginia Giuffre, to testify in the U.S. Andrew has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and reached an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre in 2022 containing no admission of liability. Liu had the hearing display a picture of the former prince from the Epstein files, which shows Mountbatten Windsor on all fours hovering over a female. No context has been supplied for the photos. It is unclear when and where they were taken, and the picture itself does not indicate criminality. Leo asked why the photos had not been used to prosecute Mountbatten Windsor. Bondi responded by asking why Leo did not bring those questions to former Attorney General Merrick Garland. I agree with you, said Leo, adding Garland, quote, dropped the ball. And then 4, Democrats push for a Minneapolis investigation. While the Epstein files took center stage during the hearing, Bondi was also pressed by lawmakers on federal immigration agents fatally shooting 2 people in Minneapolis, which sparked nationwide demonstrations. Tennessee Democratic Representative Steve Cohen told Bondi the shootings were executions that the Justice Department did not investigate. That was wrong. You should investigate it, he said. Bondi defended the federal government's actions in Minnesota, saying protesters and federal agents had been fueled by elected officials who she claimed have obstructed law enforcement and declared themselves at war with the federal government. Other Republicans joined in to defend her, including the committee chair, Representative Jim Jordan, who praised how Bondi had implemented President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration. So that's just an overview of what happened. Also, you've probably been hearing that Ghislaine Maxwell is, asking for clemency to spill the beans about everything that she knows from working with Jeffrey Epstein. This is from The Hill. White House, Ghislaine Maxwell pardon, quote, not a priority after pleading the fifth. Yeah, I bet. Of course, Trump doesn't want to give her clemency because then all of his secrets are coming out. Like, that would not work. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Tuesday that pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, an associate of Jeffrey Epstein, was not a priority for the administration following Maxwell's move to assert her Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions during a House Oversight Committee deposition this week. This is not something I've discussed recently with the president because, frankly, it's not a priority, Leavitt said at the press briefing. So, again, just to reiterate, we have someone in prison who is saying, I know everything, I'll tell you everything. And not, of course, not that I want her granted clemency, of course, but like, we can make her talk if we needed to. And he's, Caroline Leavitt's going, nah, we have other things that we're focusing on, like Kid Rock's performance at the Turning Point Super Bowl halftime show, which I guess, Mike, I'd love a review on that. He's focused on many.
Yuck.
But you said you love Kid Rock. You said you love.
I like Kid Rock more than Chris Rock. I'll tell you that.
You said I remember like a couple months ago you were going somewhere and there was talk that Kid Rock. It's so Freudian. No, I literally watched a clip of Chris Rock right before I came here, but just doing stand up, having nothing to do with anything.
See, there's rednecks and there's hillbillies.
Well, you know why? It was Theo Vaughn bringing up Chris Rock at the Comedy Store. That's why I'm like, Theo Vaughn makes me think of Kid Rock, but now Theo Vaughn also makes me think of Chris Rock. Anyway, so Kid Rock, you said you loved this guy. So I'm actually, did you watch it or not?
No.
Okay.
No. I was
watching the real Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My Bad Bunny is my daughter's favorite artist. Like, I was not turning that off to put on Kid Rock, but I did watch it in post. The most telling thing to me, and I have not checked the validity on this, but somebody posted a video of like in real time, it's saying that 5 million people were watching, but the chat being absolutely stagnant, as in like no one was watching.
Candace Owens, for whatever, obviously I'm not a fan of her, but she did a clip about exactly that, saying she was like, I have 95,000 people watching this live stream right now. When I turn this off, YouTube, she said, we'll crunch the numbers and they'll probably give me about 200,000 views or something like that. And so she said that Trump's claim of however many, I think there was a claim that Trump said at 1.6 million people were all watching the Turning Point halftime show at once. And then
convenient number.
Oh, God. And then she said that, she had a screenshot of what the YouTube said immediately after, or wherever it was airing. I guess it was YouTube. Yeah, I think it was YouTube, because I was like, her whole point was like, I know YouTube. She's like, YouTube is my place. And it showed that it was only like 6,545 views, or like some really, really low number.
Yeah, it was like 3,400.
But yet it had over 500,000 likes. And she was like, that's because they bought that or flubbed that like number. But she's like, you can tell that was a clear lie. There's no way these metrics don't make sense. And then she went through all of the top performing YouTube videos of that day, of that time. The top was like some kind of moon mission in India where 8 million people were watching or something. And she was like, that makes sense for the population of India. That number checks out.
India's sending people to the moon and we're arguing Bad Bunny or Kid Rock?
Well,
Come on, man.
It was some kind of moon mission. I don't know. I didn't look into it further because, again, I wasn't looking into it for that reason. But, apparently there's just so much going on. I can't even. I guess we could check real quick if, if we're did.
I'm locked in on India right now because the T20 World Cup is going on in cricket, which is like a huge deal, and India is the host nation. And the subtle racism on Indian TV when talking about other countries in the subcontinent, it's very funny.
Oh, God.
Like, they kind of talk down to Sri Lanka a little bit.
Oh, my God.
It's like, yes, but the host nation, the real big boy in this tournament, India.
Oh, my God.
Big game in Mumbai.
Everyone has to feel better than everyone. So, okay, so it looks like it's the Chandrayaan program, or like a continuation of that. That started in 2023, but I don't know. It's because they said there's not a human space flight scheduled for 2026, but maybe there's some kind of like Land Rover thing going on. It's not exactly clear, but that's what they're doing. That's not like a mission to the moon with humans, though. Anyway, back to this Hill article and President Trump. He's focused on many of the issues that the American people are dealing with and providing solutions to those issues, which is crazy because he's also not doing that. Like, it would be one, I guess it would be one thing if he was avoiding talking about the Epstein files and then, but everything, everyone had jobs and homes and like everyone could afford things and people were getting well educated, but no. Levitt added that the last time she spoke with Trump about the issue, he said pardoning Maxwell was not something he's considering or thinking about.
This was fun, though. Pam Bondi did say during the briefing, she said, I don't know why you keep attacking the greatest president we've ever had, President Trump, when you should be thanking him for having a Dow Jones at 50,000 points, S&P at all-time highs. It was just talking, like literally hammering home the talking points that the markets are doing well and people's 401ks are doing well. Therefore, Trump is great. And you should stop asking questions about the Epstein list because the stock market's doing well.
Listen, the lady's doing her job, Maxwell had previously indicated that she would only testify under oath if she was given criminal immunity. Otherwise, she would assert her Fifth Amendment right. The president previously did not rule out clemency for Maxwell, telling reporters in October that he would have to, quote, take a look at it. Trump and his administration have been dogged over questions surrounding the files linked to Epstein, in which Trump, along with other notable figures, including former President Bill Clinton, are mentioned multiple times. Maxwell's attorney on Monday said that only she can provide the complete account, including that both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. She must remain silent because Ms. Maxwell has a habeas petition currently pending that demonstrates that her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial, he wrote in a statement on X. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Neither Trump or Lutnick have been accused of any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. All righty then.
Didn't Lutnick just admit to going to the island, though?
I guess you could have gone to the island, and I mean, I don't.
Is Lutnick and Trump are both claiming that they were just hanging out with the staff on Kid Fuck Island? That's crazy.
I mean, yeah,
that's crazy.
It is. I agree with you.
Like, that's nuts. These were the only two. By the way, it was a wild leap of faith to be like, all right, I guess President Trump is the only one who wasn't touching kids. But now we got to run cover for his finance secretary. What are we doing? By the way, did you see that thing I sent you with Lutnick with the bridge in Michigan?
I mean, I'm sure I did. I literally must have watched 500 videos this week for news stuff. It was such a jam-packed week.
Fair enough. This is wild. There's like a bridge that Canada's building that Lutnick went and talked to a billionaire from Detroit. An hour later, Trump is ranting on Truth Social about how this bridge that's coming in from Canada is like bad for America. America needs to be hitting them over the head and getting tolls for this because it's good for America and bad for Canada. America good, what's good for America. And then you find out that the person Lutnick was having a meeting with was the guy who owns the one bridge from Detroit to Canada. So it's like having a second bridge just takes money out of his pocket, despite it being good for literally everyone else in the region. And it's like, how many times? How many times are you going to let Trump like blatantly shill out for Trump and Trump donors and Trump billionaires and like accept, like, just keep eating the shit that, like, yeah, this is good for us? How long?
I don't know. I don't know, Mike. Almost everything that has happened since this like second administration has come in has been like wild, unbelievable, crazier than we thought it would be last time. It's like a friends and family term where everything that friends and family only. I don't know. I lost you. You're not on. You're not.
This is the exact opposite of his first term. Like, it's crazy the amount of, like, the guy lost money. He spent so much time on trial being hemmed up by Congress and the Senate. Now they've really just been like, all right, raid the coffers, pilfer this country for as much as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. We don't care anymore.
Okay. Another top story, the Nancy Guthrie search continues. This is from CBS. They're kind of doing moment by moment. Again, I think I said this last week, but I just, there's something not right about this. And I don't know what it is. And I don't want to start like a tinfoil hat discussion about it, but there is something that doesn't make sense. I mean, first, when we look into this statistics of how likely it is for a senior citizen to be kidnapped, it's like 0%. Like, we talked about that when this first happens, of senior citizen abduction. Like, it's just not, like, they're called elder kidnapping. Yeah, extremely rare. Like 19.5%, and a lot of these, like, there is a, like, maybe like 19.5% of 70 to 79 year olds will be part of the missing incident reports, but a lot of that has to do with people who are like experiencing dementia, and that's why they go missing. Like, that's almost every time, like, a very high percentage of people from that age group, when they go missing, it's because they have dementia and they went on a walk because they didn't understand where they were going. Like, to actually be kidnapped, this is not like, obviously, like, older people are often the victims of like financial crimes or scams, or even like family violence, like your caretaker like hits you or something. But to be abducted as someone this age, it just doesn't fucking happen. So first of all, that's really weird. And the way it's being covered is really weird. Like, again, I don't know. Not that because she's old, we shouldn't care, but it's just something, the absolute obsession that we have over an 84-year-old woman who we don't even know her. We know her daughter. It's really, there's something off about it. And I had been thinking that for a while. And then at the Dre dossier, who again is just, she's a step above just like a person on the internet, because she actually does do research and investigation as her job. She made a video about it like in the past couple of days, kind of being like, there's something going on here. And she pointed out, number one, she pointed out at a clip of Donald Trump publicly railing into, and this was before this happened, but Savannah Guthrie, and, saying that, and I guess she had done some kind of report that he didn't like on him or his administration, and he was calling her all kinds of names publicly at some kind of speech he was giving. So Donald Trump doesn't like Savannah Guthrie. That's number one thing, but, added to the list, a long list of people he doesn't like. And then number two, Fox all of a sudden, and I think it was on a day when I think she was like pointing out it was a day that something having to do with like something big, like something having to do with the Epstein files or something, or some major thing happened, and then all of a sudden Fox News started featuring a live view of Nancy Guthrie's home as a lower third on their channel. Like, as if it was like the O.J. Simpson white Bronco chase. Did you know that this was happening, Mike?
No.
That there was a live view of Nancy Guthrie's home on Fox News in the lower right-hand corner?
No, but It's a journalist whose mother has been kidnapped. It's a journalist who's very much at the center of the biggest.
But it's a journalist whose Fox News doesn't like.
It doesn't matter. It's still an elderly person who's missing, and it's likely tied to a journalist. If it's sensational, it leads. That's the Fox News way.
I hear you. There's just but do you or do you not agree? There's something weird about the videos that Savannah Guthrie's making. It's something's wrong here. They detained like a random person. They went through a woman's house and she was on the news. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. Like, I don't know. It says what to know about Nancy Guthrie. Over 4,000 calls have been made to a tip line for the Arizona Sheriff's Department investigating the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie in the last 24 hours. And also, if you're listening in Tucson, I spoke, obviously I was on a call earlier today with the head of the Pima County Democratic Club. So I have a, pretty good insight into what's happening in Tucson now. But if you know anything else, like some things are wrong, doesn't make sense here to me. The FBI said agents were conducting an extensive search along roadways in the part of Tucson where Guthrie lives. A man who says he was detained in the investigation Tuesday night has been released. He told reporters early Wednesday, "I didn't do anything. I'm innocent." Nancy Guthrie, 84, the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, has been missing since February 1st. Authorities believe she was abducted from her home in Tucson in the middle of the night. And the FBI also this week released images and video of a person in a ski mask and gloves at Nancy Guthrie's door the night that she went missing. And a lot of people were saying, like, look at those eyes and those eyebrows. It looks like it was a woman. So I don't know. I looked at it. The body language to me looked very much like a man, not a woman at all. And I don't know. Eyes, like, there's plenty of men with feminine eyes. So, and the eyebrows were neither here nor there for me.
You're saying it was David Bowie?
Oh my, David Bowie's dead, Michael.
That's what they want you to think.
Yeah. And so I don't know what's going on here. If we want to go into tinfoil hat territory, I did see a comment that one guy left on one of these Nancy Guthrie posts that he said he thinks this is some kind of a long play to go back to like Ring cameras, and that Ring cameras will ultimately solve this, and that it's going to be like encourage us all somehow to get Ring cameras and basically like tie it into a need for us all to be surveilled at all times.
Did you see that Super Bowl commercial?
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I wasn't.
Ring doorbell showing off their like advanced AI network that combines all of the different rings around you to tap into what's going on everyone's street in real time.
Is that the one where they said that they find a lost dog every day?
We're using it to look for dogs.
Yeah, okay,
That's what we're doing with this incredibly powerful technology that you're paying for the right for us to use.
Which, number one, someone did the stats and they were like, this many thousand dogs go missing a year. So if we're finding 365, that's actually an incredibly low number. Number one, someone pointed that out. And then number two, it's very smart marketing because I had like an advertising or a marketing class or something, and they were basically like kids and babies. You don't need to have a class to know this anyway. I'm sure many articles have been written about it, but kids and babies sell products the best. So therefore, we know that a commercial where they said we're finding lost dogs, that's kind of this like bipartisan issue that everyone can get behind.
Yeah, to just give up your rights and freedoms in the pursuit of finding lost dogs. Somebody like did the numbers on how much it would cost to set up a surveillance network as in-depth as what Ring has, and it's like touching the trillions of dollars. And instead, they're selling it to you for $4.99 a month. It's mind-boggling.
Well, and then there's also this like online Instagram, TikTok trend of cute things happening that are captured by Ring doorbells. Either it's like a disgruntled Karen neighbor coming back to apologize about the racist thing she said, or kids doing something cute, or Amazon drivers thanking them, the person at the house for this elaborate setup with a mini fridge on the porch with treats for drivers that I've never seen that in real life in my entire fucking life. Maybe I just don't go to affluent suburban neighborhoods, but like I have never seen an elaborate setup of treats for Amazon drivers anywhere, even though I see them every day on the internet. If you are at home and you have one, please email me a picture withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. But this is all like that does. Like a lot of viral videos and a lot of comedy videos, they are definitely things that are paid for to promote a certain product. And Ring cameras is definitely one of them.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But also, if you're leaving out little treats for your Amazon driver, like he's Santa Claus, maybe review your relationship to capitalism.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it is like nice, but like they're just the amount of money that they're spending on it. It's like, okay, well, then you probably don't even need to be ordering from Amazon. I guess it's just kind of like any money that you're saving from ordering from Amazon. I guess you're still saving time, but maybe not because you took time to go to the like, did you Amazon the products to then feed back to the Amazon? That's like kind of cannibalistic, you know?
Did you leave a note on your door for when the guy dropped off the cold sodas that said take one?
Right. Like, did you open it in front of him and then give one back to him? Thanks for delivering the stuff that's for you. It's really weird. I saw one video of someone who had set up a crane game machine, and those crane game, like a full size one, those are extremely expensive machines.
Come on.
Had set up a crane game machine in which the drivers and also like we hear all this thing about how Amazon drivers are being timed so that they don't even have time to pee, but in this instance they have time to play a crane game.
Yeah, because
at the house of a recipient of a package, and they won like a $300 gift card. What is going on here?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
That is the Ring Corporation being like,
right.
Ring, pay us to surveil on your neighbors.
Capture this amazing moment.
Ring, please forget that we're giving our data away to ICE.
Yeah, and like, I mean, listen, I lived in a suburban home with a porch and people ringing my doorbell because, you know, I was born in 1985. So like I grew up at the time when kids would ring your doorbell and say, "Can Corinne come out to play?" That's how I grew up. And I can't think of any moment that was like, you know, I had cute moments on my block. There was no moment that I'm thinking back like, oh man, that should have been on a Ring camera. The only moment I can think of that I would have liked on a Ring camera that was not sweet was when my neighbor across the street spit in my face through the screen door. I would like that on a Ring camera. She came from an abusive household though, so I don't have hate in my heart towards her. I actually hope she's okay and not in an abusive relationship, although I fear that she's probably part of that domestic abuse stats that we saw because she grew up in a house where she saw that. But damn, crazy. All right, so that's what I mean. There's a missing link for me with that story.
I like that. That's a good theory though. Like, you know, because we heard about the thing.
I thought it was an interesting tinfoil, theory.
She was gone for a while, and then all of a sudden we see the Ring video pop up, and it's like,
Right.
oh well, if that directly leads to it, somebody was saying that it's the daughter's boyfriend or a caretaker's boyfriend.
Well, yeah, that's
kind of resembled the eyes.
Yeah, that's what everyone was kind of saying. They definitely think it's someone who knows her on the inside. But then also, why did it take so long? Because I thought initially they were saying like that the person had immediately cut any surveillance, or that there like was nothing, or that had been turned off by the perpetrator. Like, and then all of a sudden,
I mean,
now
you do see them like put their hand up against it, and I'm assuming
and you see some kind of
disable it.
piece of like foliage or like a wreath, or it looks like some kind of like a flowery wreath or something maybe that was like placed. But yeah, I don't know, very interesting.
I don't know. The thing that I sent you, the like shot for shot, the same line from Silence of the Lambs, I thought was kind of creepy too.
Okay, well, Mike, I brought up to Mike my theory that something is wrong here. There's something that doesn't make sense in this Guthrie story, and then he said, "Well, one of the videos that Savannah Guthrie made, someone said online was word for word the same as a monologue from Silence of the Lambs." And then he sent me the video, and it was literally one tiny piece of it was the same as Silence of the Lambs.
But I mean, she delivered it as though she was doing a dramatic reading in like acting class for
that is part of it.
Silence
But
of the
again,
Lambs.
I don't like to pile on with overly analyzing people's behavior when they're experiencing grief, because I think sometimes like I don't love doing that, because I think a lot of times people do act absurdly while they are experiencing grief, and we all like to think that we know how we would act if something horrific like this happened to us, and I just don't think we do. So that's when I don't like to analyze that, but I do think the videos are weird. It's not even like her behavior, it's just like the way they're being made. I don't know. The things that they're saying, it's not, something is strange about it. All right. Well, also strange. Let's pull up, if we can, without getting dinged, this new video from Jasmine Crockett. I read about it, but I didn't watch it. I was going to watch it live here and react live, but a lot of people are saying that she created this video that kind of looks like it used like AI, and that it doesn't have any pieces of her policy in it. Do you see where I have that? Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is, by the way, the most clearly AI video I've ever seen in my life, from even the 2 seconds.
Which is so interesting, because, again, like, whether or not, like, no matter, you know, what, if your thoughts on AI are hard no, or kind of something like I've discussed where it's nuanced, where I think it can really, you know, be a positive thing, but right now it is paid for and in the hands of, you know, the wrong people, who are definitely going to take anything that we plug into there and use it against us, to hurt us and monetize our trauma and our hardships and anything else that they can think to monetize. But I think it's a really weird move for an elected official to use AI when in their video, when so many people are anti-AI. It just seems like, oh, we're going to, like, this is a surefire way to turn so many people needlessly against you. Like, I don't get it. You know, because I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, she used AI, I'm voting for her. But I think a lot of people are going to be like, she used AI, that turns me off from her. All right, anyway, you can start this. This already looks like an episode of X-Men.
System is broken. Our communities are being terrorized. People are hurting. But Texas has a warrior who's fighting back. A champion for us, our votes, our rights.
It's like X-Men
It drives
sounds.
the president crazy. So they tried to draw her out of Congress because they thought it would take away our power. They were wrong.
I'm Jasmine Crockett, and I approve this message.
Right. So it has no policy in it, but number one, it's a really short ad, and you're talking to a party that has continuously fucking run on identity politics. So what do you expect? I think they're also kind of, for someone like Jasmine Crockett that we are so familiar with, I think part of the approach is, and I'm not saying this is good, especially, you know, what we just talked about earlier in the show, with people wanting to see policy and not really responding to attack ads, you know, that this maybe isn't the best approach. Like, it's like, okay, I guess they're like, oh, we know Jasmine Crockett. We know that this is someone who, you know, brings the heat always, you know, when she's in Congress, is always the first one to speak up. We think that this is someone who can really, you know, stand up against Donald Trump. But, you know, an anti-Donald Trump ad in 2026 is kind of like, I guess, a little, you know, too little too late. So I guess they, you know, people are wanting to know more like, these are the things you are going to get. And yeah, after watching, it's also like, you could have easily hired someone to do that for you. Like, you could have hired an animator to do that for you. Is it confirmed that it was AI, or you just can tell?
No, I mean, I'm just looking at the at the animation style, and it looks very much like AI. I mean, if she did go and hire like an actual like, you would need an actual comic book artist to come in and do that.
For sure. No, it's not based on. Wait, like, okay, wait. No, it's wait. Video use of AI in Texas political campaign. Someone saying that AI should be used. So here, this is an article from Spectrum Local News. It says Crockett's campaign says the anime-style advertisement, quote, was created through hundreds of hours of real craft and collaboration between creatives and union labor, but she did not directly address whether her campaign used AI in the ad. And then there's someone who is the director, Kevin Frazier, who's the director of AI innovation at the University of Texas School of Law, is saying that we just need a law that when political campaigns use AI, they just have to disclose it the same way it's disclosed on social media, which I agree with.
Edwards, the initial post that went up claims that it contains a synth ID watermark, an invisible digital identifier used by Google to verify content created by its AI.
Interesting. All right.
So the one who brought the attention to it possibly being AI is like, yo, I checked. It's for sure AI.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that just seems like a very, very lazy and very sloppy. And like I understand that it's like costs a lot of money to hire an artist, but like I'm very familiar with campaign expenses and you know, yeah, I get to animate a short piece. Animation takes so long. I'm guessing that would be thousands of dollars, but you know, still in a campaign like Jasmine Crockett's, if you decide that you want anime style in it, you should budget for that. And also it's like, who is that directed towards? Like people who like anime. I mean, yes, I would say more left than right for sure, but people who I think would be probably, I don't know, maybe not necessarily a lot more left than Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett's like pretty left, even though these days everyone feels like a moderate in the eyes of the internet. I don't know. All right. I just don't. Yeah, I think the AI on top of we did an ad that's literally just an attack ad of Trump, which is kind of a given at this point for almost anyone, certainly anyone running in the Democratic Party. And, you know, especially when you have this instance where it's going to be head to head with you and this other person running, you know, Tallarico, but I don't know. It's just really, I thought that was a weird choice. And when everyone came up at the end and all crossed their arms, that looks stupid. Yeah, I don't think with all the criticism that she's gotten recently, purely running on, hey, it's me, I'm Jasmine Crockett, you know I always speak up, is like going to be enough. Although for some people, I'm sure it will be.
Hey, look, I'll be honest. The most I've ever liked her was today when she was pressing
Pam Bondi,
yeah, and Kash Patel.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's what we want, right? And so I think, I literally think, so if I'm the head of the campaign, I'm doing a montage of her in Congress bringing the business. This is what she's doing. She's and I think not anti-Trump. I think we need to divvy up the criticism if we're going to criticize people, because Trump at this point almost does seem like this super villain who can't be fought. So like, let's fight his underlings. And it's like, this is the same person who went head to head with Pam Bondi. I mean, that happened today, so it couldn't be included. But like, this is the same person who went head to head with this person about the Epstein files. This is a person who went head to head with this person who was trying to take your health insurance away from you. You know, like even that, because then at least it's not policy, but it goes through the specific things that she has while in Congress fought for you, the constituents, for. That I think is, because that's not a policy ad, but and it's a little bit personality, a little bit identity, but it's not an attack ad. So that could be a way to go about that. All right. So then quickly, we have Nigeria. I know this was on the table for a while, but the Pentagon has officially sent 200 troops to Nigeria. This is from the New York Times. The troops will help train Nigerians to fight militants, but will not be involved in combat. U.S. forces have been assisting local soldiers with identifying potential terrorist targets. The Pentagon is sending about 200 troops to Nigeria in the coming weeks to help train its military to fight Islamist militants, weeks after President Trump criticized the country for failing to shield Christians from terrorist attacks. A U.S. official said on Tuesday, the troops will augment a small team of U.S. forces who have been in the West African nation for weeks assisting local soldiers with identifying potential terrorist targets for strikes using American and Nigerian intelligence, said the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss operational matters. The new troops, whose impending deployment was reported earlier by the Wall Street Journal, will be assigned to locations across the country to provide troop training and technical expertise, the official said. The U.S. troops will not be involved in combat operations, the official added. Relations between Nigeria and the United States took a startling turn after Mr. Trump late last year threatened to enter Nigeria, quote, guns a-blazing, to avenge what he called a Christian genocide. Weeks later, on Christmas Day, Navy warships aided by Nigerian intelligence launched 16 Tomahawk missiles at what Mr. Trump said was the, quote, terrorist scum responsible for killing Nigerian Christians. The strike was the explosive outcome of an intense, years-long push led by Christian activists, Republican lawmakers, and American celebrities seeking U.S. intervention in a long-simmering security crisis in Nigeria. Thousands of Muslims and Christians alike have been killed as part of a campaign of violence and land disputes. The violence involves battles over land, kidnappings for ransom, sectarian tensions, and terrorism, but the activists wanted Mr. Trump to see the conflict through a single lens: the persecution of Christians. The activists have seized on his support to orchestrate a rapid shift in U.S. foreign policy toward Nigeria, with major consequences for the country, including the threat of more bombings. U.S. military leaders who for years have complained about prickly relations with the Nigerian military say the shift has opened the door to increased intelligence sharing and military planning. And now additional training. U.S. surveillance planes from Ghana regularly fly over contested Nigerian territory and relay data to teams of American and Nigerian military analysts, drawing up potential terrorist targets for strikes. General Dagveen R.M. Anderson, the head of the military's Africa Command, met with senior Nigerian officials this month. His deputy, Lieutenant General John Brennan, was in Nigeria's capital last month to announce a closer military partnership between the two nations. Just how effective the increased U.S. involvement in Nigeria has been or will be is an open question. The Tomahawk missiles fired on December 25th, valued at about $32 million, hit northwest Nigeria, an overwhelmingly Muslim area. U.S. military officials are still assessing the damage, but said that more than 36 Islamic State-affiliated terrorists were flushed out and later arrested by Nigerian authorities. Residents have said the missiles hit empty fields and vacant militant hideouts. Africa Command said it was helping Nigeria in its campaign against several extremist groups, including Boko Haram and another known as Islamic State's West Africa province. Africa Command is working with our Nigerian and regional partners to increase counterterrorism cooperation efforts related to ongoing violence and threats against innocent lives, General Anderson said in a statement after the December strikes. Our goal is to protect Americans and disrupt violent extremist organizations wherever they are. I just wanted to do like a little bit of things happening other places in the country, because I think with everything going on in America, it's really easy to kind of keep our blinders on. But there are, a couple of really important things happening. And then this is, really short, but this is from Democracy Now!, an update on Sudan. UNICEF warns more than half of all children in North Darfur are acutely malnourished. And again, when this, came out about Gaza, it was absolutely everywhere. And I really had to dig to find this information, period, about Sudan. And then additionally, had to really dig to find any mainstream news outlets covering this. And I ultimately, I was getting it from Democracy Now! Or the UNICEF page.
Did the U.S. directly fund the starving of most of the children in Darfur?
Yeah, I understand. I get why people are more heightened, but for one to be everywhere and one to be nowhere, when at the end of the day it's still children are starving, it's a little crazy to me. In Sudan, the UN Children's Fund has warned more than half of all children in parts of North Darfur, especially when this administration is taking money away from our international programs that help people internationally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the
So, like, it is-
decimation of U.S. aid. If that's what this is,
we actually are taking away aid. You know, we're not funding it, but we are taking away aid from it. In parts of North Darfur are acutely malnourished, with 2 more areas in the region experiencing famine levels of hunger. This is UNICEF spokesperson Ricardo Pires, quote, famine thresholds for malnutrition have been surpassed in Umbaru and Kernoi, locations that weren't previously considered at risk. Extreme hunger and malnutrition come for children first, the youngest, the smallest, the most vulnerable. And in Sudan, it's spreading. These are children between 6 months and 5 years old, and they're running out of time. According to recent UN data, over 30 million people out of Sudan's population of nearly 47 million are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance. This comes as Reuters reports the United Arab Emirates allegedly funded a camp in Ethiopia to train fighters of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UAE has repeatedly denied involvement in Sudan's war. So that's happening. Sudan. So we did Nigeria, we did Sudan, and then let's move over to Israel while we're on the topic, and then we'll close out with Canada. I did not forget about you, Canada. So this is from Al Jazeera.
we're just running up against it for time.
What?
I'm just running up against it for time.
Okay. Israel used. Oh wait, do you have someone waiting for you?
Yeah, Alex is on her way.
Okay. So Israel used. I saw a piece about Israel specifically using weapons in Gaza that made thousands of Palestinians evaporate, and I was like, what does that even mean? So basically, Al Jazeera did an investigation revealing how the U.S. supplied thermal and thermobaric munitions burning at 3,500 degrees Celsius have left no trace of nearly 3,000 Palestinians. I don't think up until I read this today, I knew this kind of weapon even really existed in the real world, I guess. So we don't even need to really read the whole article because it's very long. It goes into the weaponry, but apparently these kind of weapons exist. In summary, these kind of weapons were used on Palestinians, and this would go under all the talk of the U.S. giving more and more money to fund weaponry to Israel. This would be some of the parts of the weaponry that are funded. And I mean, this is crazy because this kind of weaponry. It's like, if it's evaporating these people, it's leaving no trace of them, which is obviously, gives no solace to families. You don't have a body to mourn. You don't even know what happened to your loved one. And then can also really fudge with numbers. So when we go into looking at numbers, how many people were killed, it's like, oh, well, if thousands of people are fully evaporated, then the numbers are going to even be lower than what the initial assessment was. So that's the update on Israel. And then Canada, you guys are last rounding out the show. Obviously there was a mass shooting in Canada, not very common for Canada. I do have to admit that I saw shooting and I was like, fuck, where? And then I saw Canada and I was honestly like, oh, okay, well, not America. That's good. But that's not a good attitude to have. But that was just my human gut reaction. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one. So this is the New York Post. Jesse Van Rootselaar, 18, ID'd as transgender ex-student behind Tumblr Ridge mass shooting. And as someone who wrote into the show said, they were, I had seen about this, was going to cover it, but I think, Wacko was like, please make sure you cover this, and was, like very unfortunate that I was a transgender person. And I agree it's unfortunate in that it gives people more ammunition against transgender people. But I also think, like, on the left, maybe we have to get out of the habit of being so obsessed, with like it being or not being. It's like, it was who it was. And transgender people are people. That's like something that we acknowledge. And they are angry just as cis people are angry, And of course, New York, I chose the New York Post article because they chose to feature the fact that the shooter was transgender in the title. The deranged high school dropout who murdered
Well,
his...
it's better than the Canadian sheriff who called them a gun person.
Oh boy, I didn't see that. The deranged high school dropout was murdered, who murdered his mother and stepbrother before killing 6 people at British Columbia School, has been identified as 18-year-old transgender ex-student. I'm not even going to continue to say their name. The horrifying attack, one of the deadliest shootings in Canada's history, began Tuesday at a residence in the sleepy rural community of Tumbler Ridge in the Western Province and concluded at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, a small academy serving grades 7 through 12 with a student body of around 160s. Authorities say the shooter shot, and they're saying himself, but if it's they never, this is the thing, like these right-leaning things never say, was it male or female, so I don't even know if we're misgendering. I guess it doesn't matter when you shoot people. You don't get the luxury of being gendered properly. Do you know?
I mean, I'd bet my life on it being MTF, but
Yeah,
I'll
me too. But
I mean, what are we talking
I
about
know,
here?
I know, me too. But I just wanted to see, and also the fact that they said himself makes me think even more it was male to female transition.
Yeah, that's the Post. Come on,
I know, your favorite place.
the paper of record.
The shooter was identified Wednesday by Royal Canadian Mounted Police Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald.
Oh, come on.
Oh, here,
they got a Mountie on this?
Here in this article, it does say, who said he was born a biological male, who approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female. Asked by a reporter whether he lives there, was any correlation between the shooter identifying as transgender and the shooting, McDonald said it's too early to say. And again, any misgendering in the article, I'm just reading the article as is. It's not me. Photos of the shooter in a happy birthday message posted by, again, they're saying his grandmother on Facebook for his 14th birthday, approximately 2 years into his transition, show what appears to be a fairly normal teenage boy. Oh my God, this article. Several of the pictures were taken outdoors. In one of them, he's holding 2 recently caught fish, and another, he's standing in front of a pickup truck with what appears to be a large fishing net attached. Happy 14th birthday to our grandson, Jesse. Love you always, XOXO, the caption of the August 2021 posting read. McDonald said police had visited the family home on multiple occasions over the last several years due to concerns over the shooter's mental health. So again, very similar story, you know. On more than one occasion, he was taken into custody for assessment under the Mental Health Act, he said. 2 years ago, firearms were seized from the home, but the lawful owner, who McDonald did not name, got them back after petitioning to have them returned. 2 firearms were recovered at the school, including a long gun and a modified handgun, but it was not immediately clear whether they were weapons that were previously confiscated and returned. An initial alert issued about an active shooter at the school Tuesday afternoon described the shooter as a, quote, female in a dress. I gotta say, that's also really over, like, that's like a cis woman wouldn't shoot it in a dress. Like, that seems almost performative, I hate to say. Like, you showed up to shoot, like, no, we don't do, like, what are we talking about? You wouldn't show up to shoot in a dress. It doesn't even make sense. It's not easier to run in a dress.
All right, look, you know how mad this person was to go shoot up a school in the first place. Try misgendering them on top of it. It's going to be a problem for everyone.
That just, I don't know, that just feels weird. Like, who the fuck, like, when you're going to do physical activity, you don't wear a dress, unless it's like a tennis skirt, I guess. The police superintendent later described the shooter as a gun person in a press briefing. There you go. 6 people were found dead in the school, and the bodies of his mother, 39, and stepbrother, 11, were discovered in a local residence, cops said. What's his age? That his mother's 39? CTV News identified the shooter's mother as Jennifer Strang and initially reported the shooter as having the same last name. In an Instagram from July 2024, Strang posted a picture of a trans-inclusive pride flag emblazoned with the message, "Good people don't spend their time harassing marginalized communities." Describing herself as a conservative-leaning libertarian, Strang aligned herself with the flag's message. "I really hope the hate I see online is just bored old people and not true hatred. Do better and educate yourself before spewing bullshit Online, she wrote, "Do you have any idea how many kids are killing themselves over this kind of hate?" She asked before concluding her post with the hashtag protect trans kids. Well, that makes me sad then. Why'd you kill your mother? The victim shot inside the school. The victims shot inside the school include one female teacher, 39, three 12-year-old female students, and two male students aged 12 and 13. Their identities were not revealed. Most of the students who were killed were found in the library, with one found in a stairwell, McDonald said. The shooter was a former student who dropped out approximately 4 years ago, according to McDonald. How he gained access to the building during school hours was not immediately known. Well, let me fill that in for you. It's Canada. They brag about not locking their doors there, you know? And again, not saying that like because of that you deserve it. It's great that you feel like you don't need to lock your doors, but I just feel like it's crazy not to lock your door.
Yeah, and I mean, especially after Jimmy got shot on Degrassi, it's like you'd think they'd figure it out.
Oh my God. Approximately 25 others were wounded in the shooting, a few seriously injured, but most of whom were being treated for non-life-threatening injuries at a local hospital. The Tumbler Ridge Royal Canadian Mounted Police responded to reports of a shooting around 1:20 p.m. local time on Tuesday. The school went into lockdown, and students and teachers barricaded themselves in classrooms for more than 2 hours before around 100 students were evacuated to safety. The RCMP's emergency public alert was canceled at 5:45 p.m. local time as they believed there was no longer a threat to the public. The shooting is the latest in a number of mass shootings committed by individuals who identify as transgender over the past decade, and then they go into everything any trans person has done over the past decade, which I think is a bit of a stretch. And then it says only 2 shootings in Canadian history have claimed more victims. The second deadliest rampage in the country's history was the Montreal massacre at École Polytechnique in December 1989, so long ago, in which 14 women were targeted and killed. The grim distinction for the deadliest attack goes to the 2020 Nova Scotia attacks, in which a 51-year-old maniac lit fires at 16 locations and committed multiple shootings around the province between April 18th and 19th, killing 22 people. So yeah, I won't say thoughts and prayers because that's like the same garbage that we say here. But unfortunately, I do think like countries follow the lead of America sometimes, for better or for worse. And in this instance, obviously, for worse. And, you know, just because you have less guns or, you know, less issues, you know, and maybe less of a mental health crisis, I don't really know the stats for Canada, I'd have to look that up, doesn't mean that you have no people experiencing those things. And, you know, just the same way as people watch what happens when celebrities come to America and the way they rise up in celebrity, the way they can't in other countries, I guess the same can be done for people who rise to prominence, in quotes, or who leave a stamp on society by gunning down folks. So that is our show for today. Again, I hope to see you guys on Saturday, February 21st in Tucson. If you can't pay the full price ticket, make sure that you take advantage of this flash sale happening this Friday, which is February 13th, Friday the 13th. You can get $20 off any level or tier of ticket with the code VOTEBLUE2026, all written together. And yeah, bring a friend, bring someone. They don't have to be interested in any of my shows. They don't have to be interested in me. They just have to be interested in municipal politics and making sure that the midterms actually happen and that the Democrats do win those midterms and in Tucson. And if you like I said, if you want to ask any questions, you will have the opportunity to do so. And then, of course, make sure you're subscribed to the Without a Country YouTube. Make sure you're following me on social media, Philanthropy Gal. And I think that is it for now. Mike, do you have anything to plug?
The M Harrington on Instagram and Twitter. Been putting a lot of nice pictures of my family, my little baby girl, and stuff that I see throughout the day. So check that out. Also, while you're there, click the link for the armoredleague.com. Speaking of violent femmes, we have the all femme tournament, going to be female presenting fighters. So that means ladies, non-binary. We have the non-binary Nadia coming. It is, it's one of the most inclusive sports on the planet. So come by. I'm going to be doing commentary with a yet unnamed female commentator. Going to be fun.
Wow, this was might have been the most progressive thing you've ever said. You really want to sell tickets. You know your audience.
The violent. I'm so mad. They went with like Fatal Femmes or something. The Violent Femmes was right there.
But that's the name of a band.
Yeah, and it's also the name of an incredible display of medieval action at Melrose Ballroom next Thursday.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you want to email the show, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. Rest in peace, James Van Der Beek. We're going to miss you. Until next week. Bye.